This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Here comes Awesome again on the outside, who charges to the lead, and Awesome again in front. A first success second. Whitman, Barron takes to the outside. Awesome again wins by 3.
And Jockey's Warrior remains undefeated here at Saratoga, and he wins an unprecedented Grade 1 stakes at the Spa for the 3rd straight season. Jockey's Warrior, a true thoroughbred champion.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Down the center of the track, here comes Street Boss. And Street Boss let loose. Spot the Diplomat gets the lead, though. Spot the Diplomat in front. Street Boss on the outside. Street Boss is too strong. And Street Boss in a scintillating performance.
They're a furlong from the finish. It's Nest in full flight. Clairiere still with 2.5 to make up. $5 million in earnings between these two daughters of Curlin. But it belongs to Nest, who comes back in style and finishes full of run to score in the Chevy by 2.5 lengths.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network, the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, as always, happy to have you in the starting gate with me on this Saturday morning, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you access your podcasts. There are two major Grade 1 sprint races set for this afternoon. The A.G. Vanderbilt at Saratoga and the Bing Crosby at Del Mar. The latter, a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And that sets up my poll question this morning. If the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint is competing in one of those races later today, which race is it more likely to be? Will it be the A.G. Vanderbilt or the Bing Crosby? You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to let me know your thoughts, or email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. The easy answer is the A.G. Vanderbilt, considering the race includes last year's sprint winner Elite Power, who enters today's race on a 7-race win streak and shows no signs of any chinks in his armor. The only other horse in the A.G. Vanderbilt with Breeders' Cup experience is Gunite, who was 4th in last year's Dirt Mile, but was no match for Elite Power when they met in Saudi Arabia in February. That's why Elite Power is the 4-5 morning line favorite over Gunite in today's A.G. Vanderbilt. Not that Gunite was disgraced that day, finishing second to the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, but Elite Power was unquestionably the better horse that day. Maybe today will be different. After all, Saratoga is the graveyard of favorites. But as I started to look closer at the horses entered in today's pair of Grade 1 sprints, I found myself drawing a parallel to the NFL and the quarterbacks considered to be the most elite, no pun intended, in the league today. If we look at the A.G. Vanderbilt as featuring the Patrick Mahomes of the sprint division in Elite Power, the Bing Crosby has attracted a field that includes several Joe Burrows or Jalen Hurts in terms of extremely talented rivals trying to get to the top of the mountain, but so far unable to beat Patrick Mahomes. CZ Rocket was second to Elite Power in last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint and second in the 2020 edition. Dr. Schivel, who is in that Bing Crosby, was beaten a nose in the Breeders' Cup Sprint in 2021. And last year's Bing Crosby winner, American Theorem, who returns today to defend his title, finished 8th in last year's Sprint. All three close but no cigar, playing the role of Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts to the elite power of Patrick Mahomes. So back to my original question. If the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint is competing in one of those two races later today, the AG Vanderbilt or the Bing Crosby, which race is it more likely to be? The field in the Bing Crosby is pretty darn good, and it wouldn't take an Kong-like upset to envision one of those contenders being draped in a garland of purple and gold flowers after the running of the Breeders' Cup Sprint on November 4th. You can certainly see that. But it all comes down to finding a way to beat elite power, just like every other quarterback in the NFL is now trying to find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes. One potential advantage the horses in today's Bing Crosby may have when the first Saturday in November rolls around is a home field advantage with the Breeders' Cup being run at Santa Anita. Elite Power, to this point in his career anyway, is an unknown on the West Coast. He's never raced at Santa Anita, nor any track in California. So that may provide a sliver of hope for those wanting to answer my question with the Bing Crosby. But then again, Elite Power has won races at Churchill Downs, Saratoga, Belmont, Keeneland, and Saudi Arabia. So it may be fool's gold to hang your hat solely on the hope he doesn't handle Santa Anita or doesn't ship well out to California. He's performed on every stage so far. He is the Patrick Mahomes of the Sprint division, and he's the one they're all going to have to beat. So I think for me, in answer to the poll question this morning, I'm going to go with the AG Vanderbilt. I know that the Bing Crosby is the deeper field. I know there's a lot of talent in that field, but until you beat the best, you can't be the best. And that's where Elite Power sits right now, looking to make it 8 in a row in that Grade 1 later today. Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day is tied with fellow Hall of Famer Javier Castellano for most wins in the AG Vanderbilt with 4. Pat's going to be with me at 9 o'clock Eastern, not only to talk about his wins in the AG Vanderbilt, and, of course, you have the Jim Dandy at Saratoga today. Pat's a multiple winner of the Jim Dandy. We're going to talk about some of those victories with him, take a little trip down memory lane. But it was 50 years ago today, July 29th, 1973, that Pat Day rode his first career winner. It was a horse named Forblunged in a $2,000 claiming race at Prescott Downs in Prescott, Arizona. His mount that day earned $347. That was the winner's share of the $631 purse. He did a bit better than that for the rest of his career. Currently 5th all-time in terms of wins is jockey Pat Day, and you're going to hear from him coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. Do not miss that conversation. A lot of conversations. Listen, every week you want to stay tuned to every conversation that I bring your way. But there are a lot of really intriguing conversations coming up over the next few hours for you here this morning. Trainer George Papaprodromou is going to join me after my first break here at 8:15 Eastern. He has the defending champ American Theorem and multiple Greatest Stakes winner Spirit of McKenna set to go in today's Bing Crosby. I'm going to ask him about those two horses. I'll ask him about the rest of the field. Maybe I'll pose that poll question to him. Of course, he's probably going to side with the home team, as he should. But you'll hear from George coming up in just a few minutes. At 8:35, going to welcome Ted Nicholson. He is the Vice President of Racing at Kentucky Downs. Get a chance to talk to him about the upcoming meet and about some of the handicapping contests for all the horse players out there who are looking for some opportunities later this summer. you're going to have a great chance at Kentucky Downs to play in some incredible contests, and Ted's going to fill you in on that at 8:35. Again, 9 o'clock, Pat Day will be with me, and at 9:30, outspoken owner Mike Repole and trainer Dale Romans, who is never shy with his opinions, as you know from listening to our I Ask, They Answer show at the end of this program every single week, they're going to join me together for an extended conversation to discuss the current state of racing and their outlook for the future of the sport. As we know, Mike Repole has expressed his frustration publicly, starting with the scratch of Forte in the Kentucky Derby and the fact he couldn't run in the Preakness because of that decision that took place on Derby morning. Mike took to Twitter on Belmont morning, the day that Forte was running in that race, and called for change in the sport, called for reform. And he's continued to beat that drum. This past week, he came out and told Horse Racing Nation that if he can't make change over the next 3 years, he doesn't see himself in the business 3 years from now. That's a huge loss for racing. Mike Repole has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on horses. We need owners like Mike Repole and others in this game. Somebody has to buy our horses. Mike Repole has stepped up and done that. Many times in partnership with Vinny Viola. Again, in September at Keeneland, they were the leading buyers. Mike Repole, the individual leading buyer. He spent a lot of money. So to lose a guy like Mike Repole, when somebody like that steps up and comes out publicly and says, I might not be in the game in 3 years, it better pick up your head. I'm going to talk to Mike and trainer Dale Romans together, get a couple of sides of this issue, coming up at 9:30. Do not miss that conversation. 10 o'clock, James Scully will be with me for the TwinSpires Triple Play. 10:20, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, Dale and Tim back with me for I Ask, They Answer. Another listener-submitted question coming their way. And, of course, you can do that by sending your questions to Mike at horseracingradio.net. And we're going to find out which lucky listener is going to compete against Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2, which begins next Saturday. They will draw out the winner from all the submissions we've received over the past several weeks, and we appreciate everybody who has taken time to enter. Good luck to everyone there. All right, so a loaded program as it is every single Saturday morning. A lot to get to. You're gonna hear a lot of different angles coming up here this morning, so stay with me. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Get ready for another week of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino in Altoona, Iowa, starting Friday, July 28th. The 4-day racing week will be highlighted by the Iowa Stallion Futurity for 2-year-olds at 5.5 furlongs on Saturday, July 29th. Post time on Friday and Saturday is 6 p.m. Central, then 4 p.m. Central on Sunday and Monday. Experience the thrill of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino, Iowa's favorite place to play. Visit prairiemeadows.com for more information.
Here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, what would be a common misunderstanding between an insured and the insurance company?
Mike, one issue is a policy condition that requires notification when an insured animal becomes sick or injured.
Do you mean in life-threatening situations?
Not just then, but if a veterinarian is called in for treatment other than routine care, take for example if a yearling colt gets his foreleg caught in a fence and tears the skin. The coat is stitched up and everything seems fine, but later the coat develops a systemic infection. Then there's a serious situation that the company knows nothing about.
So the company needs to know, even if it's not a life-threatening situation.
That's right. It's a policy condition. The company has a stake in the health of the animal because of the existing insurance policy. The company might want to have its own vet examine the horse. In most cases, though, just a call or email is all that is needed.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Nicholson Insurance Agency at 859-224-7080. You gotta know Joe.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet, with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Top of the lane, and Shaw's now in deep water at the rail. Shaw's been overtaken. It's American Theorem, the grey, in full flight for the wire. I do believe the rider just dropped his stick, but it's not making any difference. American Theorem striding home strongly. Get Her Number is now chasing from second. American Theorem and Joe Bravo have won the Bing Crosby. Second place will go to Get Her Number, and then it's close for third between Let's Get Lucky and Shaw's.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Trevor Denman with the call of last year's Bing Crosby, won by American Theorem, one of 260-plus winners saddled by George Papaprodromou, and one of several graded stakes winners that George has been around over the years and has had come through his barn. And he's a good one, American Theorem. He comes back later today to defend his title. We'll see if he can pull it off. He is paired with his stablemate, Spirit of McKenna, and George joins me now to talk about both of those contenders. George, good morning.
Good morning.
That race last year by American Theorem was extremely impressive. He's 8-1 on the morning line this year, not getting the kind of respect. He's been a little off form over the past couple of starts. Tell me more about him coming into this race.
Yeah, he's definitely more fitter coming into this race right now. We raced him last time. He needed the race. The race was a little too fast for him too, but he came out great. And like I said, now he's doing great, and definitely he's ready for this race kind of right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I use the term off form, and that's not really fair to him because you look at what he's done since the Bing Crosby. He was second in the Pat O'Brien. He's 8th in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Okay, we can forgive that one. He was only beaten 5.5 lengths by Elite Power. And then, as you said, he comes back in his return race, and he ends up finishing 5th. What did you take away from – he was a big favorite that day. What did you take away from that return race on June 16th?
Yeah. Like I said, he wasn't ready for that kind of race, but we had to run him and give him a race, you know what I mean? And we are running out of time. So we just we still working in the mornings. We just, we had to race him. Race and work is different things, You get a little more out of the race than the workout. So we had to run him there. And then, I hate to a horse like that, make him finish way back, you know what I mean? But hopefully, like I said, he came out great of the race. He's training even better now, and he's going to this race 100% ready. So,
was this always kind of the midsummer goal for him?
Yes, that was the goal. Yep.
Yeah, obviously being the defending champion, we know he likes the course. We know that the competition level isn't an issue for him. Maybe he's flying a little under the radar this year.
I think so too. Yeah, like I said, he's training great, doing great. He worked the other day here at Del Mar. He worked great. I'm very happy the way he's training now and going to this race, and hopefully runs a huge run like he did last year,
Yeah, he's a horse that has some versatility as well. He's won on the front end in the past, but when he won the Bing Crosby a year ago, he kind of sat back just off the pace, got a beautiful ride from Joe Bravo, and then turned it on to roll through the stretch over Get Her Number, who he gets a rematch with, by the way, in this year's edition. But his running style, what do you think his best running style is?
I mean, he, like I said, I mean, he's a horse I consider a little bit right off the pace and make a good run at the end, and he's a horse that, he listens, it's not a horse that is a run-off horse or whatever. So that's a good thing about him. I mean, obviously there's a lot of speed in the race on Saturday, and hopefully we'll see right off him and make a good run at the, turning for home, like he did last year. So that's the plan.
I mentioned Joe Bravo. He is going to be aboard American Theorem's stablemate, Spirit of McKenna, who has been ultra impressive. He's never run a bad race in 5 career starts, won 4 of those. Last time out in the Triple Bend, he won pretty easily. Tell me more about Spirit of McKenna.
Yeah, Spirit of McKenna, it's a horse that, we took our time with him, obviously, and then now he's in a good form too. He won his last 3-4 races, and he's training great, and, the same thing with him. He's a horse he doesn't have to be on the lead. You know what I mean? It's a horse that you can sit him right off the pace too, and just make one run at the end. I mean, both have the same kind of way of running. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to be on the lead, so which is a great thing too. So, but he's doing great, and Joe, decided to stay on that one, and and hopefully one of them wins.
Yeah, it's his first try in Grade 1 company. You have to find out if he belongs at this level. It certainly looks like he does coming out of that win in the Grade 2 Triple Bend. When a trainer has 2 really talented horses in a Grade 1 race like this, are you just hoping for a 1-2 finish or maybe even a dead heat?
Let's do a dead heat. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just hope both run great, and hopefully one of them wins. Or like you said, 1-2, and that'll be great. Or, dead heat will be even better. But yeah, I just hate to run 2 horses like that in the same race. But they both belong there, and there's nothing we can do. You know what I mean? So, Theorem had to come back to defend his title, and the other horse is doing great, and that was his plan with the other horse too, Spirit of McKenna, to run him in the Bing Crosby when obviously, like I said, hopefully they both come 1-2.
This segment, George, is our Road to the Breeders' Cup segment, and the Bing Crosby, a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. Last year you were able to go ahead and put that one in your pocket. How big is that for the connections to be able to say, okay, we're already locked in, we don't have to worry about the expenses? It has to be huge, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. Every owner wants to be in the Breeders' Cup, you know what I mean? And this is the race to, you win and you're in, So, of course, yeah.
Size up the rest of the competition for me. I mentioned a horse like Get Her Number back in here, CZ Rocket, who, on his day, fantastic. Tell me about some of the others that you're going to have to face, including the Calbred, the Chosen Vron. What do you know about all them?
Definitely new, the new horses we're running against with and all that. So, Dr. Cheval, he's good. There's some decent horses, the Calbred, like you said. We're going to find out, some new shooters in the race. So, they got a good speed into them too. They've been, doing great. They've chosen that one. He's undefeated for the last 7-8 starts. It's a pretty salty race. You know what I mean? There's a lot of speed in the race, and we'll just see how he's going to play,
My poll question this morning, which listeners are going to our social media and emailing me with answers to, is which of the 2 Grade 1 sprint races today, the Bing Crosby at Del Mar or the AG Vanderbilt at Saratoga, is more likely to produce the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint? And I made the case earlier, George, that the horses, you might not have Elite Power, the leader in the division, in the Bing Crosby, but the horses in the Bing Crosby will have a home field advantage when the Breeders' Cup rolls around in November. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, that's a good thing about us too here. We're running in a backyard, you know what I mean, in Santa Anita, which that's what I train, and it's a big advantage, you know what I mean, which is, so that's a good thing about us. We run here, then we go back to Santa Anita. That's what I train, so, hopefully that'll help a little bit,
I've always thought it's very difficult on horses who are solely based on the East Coast to ship out to California for a Breeders' Cup event and try to run well. And we've seen that over the years where California horses will hold an advantage over those East Coast horses in those seasons. How about when you go the other way, when you ship from California back to, say, New York or Kentucky? Is that more Is that challenging?
It is. I mean, it's just the way we train here in California is different than back east, I think. You know what I mean? We kind of train a little more aggressively and more, than back there. I don't know, maybe that's what it is, and that's why I would like more, you know what I mean? The kind of tough going there, or, when they come here, that's what I think. We're just a little more aggressive training them,
Yeah. Harder to go west to east or east to west?
West to east, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, hardly,
you just had to give me an answer.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I don't run too many like that, but maybe it's Papa's the guy to ask, not me.
Trainer George Papaprodromou with me here on the Equine Forum. Again, 2 horses going in today's Bing Crosby, including the defending champ American Theorem. How about tomorrow in the Grade 2 Eddie Reed? You're going to send out Cabo Spirit. Tell me a little bit more about him and that race.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. He's a nice horse. He's training great, going to the race. I'm looking forward to seeing him run huge. So I like him a lot. Yep,
and he pairs with Joe Bravo, just like Spirit of McKenna. Joe Bravo seems to be a pretty good fit for you and your horses.
We team up pretty good. We do well together. And he's been running the horse the last 7-8 starts too. He knows the horse pretty well. And then I love him. He's training great. He's coming quickly into the race, doing great.
Yeah, one of the good guys in the sport too. I'm glad that you guys have developed that partnership. George, listen, I know you're busy working. I'm going to let you go. Really appreciate the time, my friend, and all the best in the Bing Crosby and the Eddie Reed tomorrow.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, George Papaprodromou here on HRRN. And look, George has had a lot of success, and he's right. Baffert's probably the guy to ask about shipping west to east and east to west. He doesn't do it nearly as much as Bob. And he does, you heard him say, he does feel like there is that home field advantage when the Breeders' Cup rolls around in November, being at Santa Anita. And I would agree. For years, I've maintained, not that horses from the East Coast don't go out to Santa Anita or to Del Mar and win. We know that they do. But I think it's challenging. The connections will go. And last week we had a question with Dale and I Asked, They Answered that was submitted by a listener. I believe it was last week, maybe the week before. But asking about getting there early. Is there a benefit to racing at Del Mar or getting out to Santa Anita for their Breeders' Cup preview day, the big Breeders' Cup challenge races they have about a month before the Breeders' Cup's held there? Is there an advantage to getting out there early, competing in those races, and just staying there? Or can you ship in right on top of the race the week of? I think all horses have to be on track by, Monday, I guess, of Breeders' Cup week. Can you just go right in without having raced over the racetrack, and just which one's better? And you can go back and listen to that podcast of I Asked, They Answered. Dale and Tim addressed that one. Dale, especially being a trainer, has done that many, many times. But I think there is an advantage. And again, the horses in the Bing Crosby today have been close to getting past horses in the Breeders' Cup Sprint over the past 3 years. Just haven't been able to do it. CZ Rocket, Dr. Shivel, American Theorem last year. They have to find a way this year to beat Elite Power. He is far and away the leader in this division, in my opinion, anyway. I mean, look, he comes into the AG Vanderbilt today on a 7-race win streak. Nobody's been close to him. Doesn't need to take his racetrack with him. There are a lot of pluses. He performs on the big stage consistently. That's why I drew the parallel. He's Patrick Mahomes right now. In that sprint division, Elite Power is Patrick Mahomes. He's at the top of the mountain. The horses in the Bing Crosby have to prove they can beat him. They haven't been able to do it yet. Those are the Joe Burrows. Those are the Jalen Hurts. But there is a home field advantage. And every trainer will tell you that. They would much rather run out of their own stall. Their horses are comfortable there. They're comfortable there. I mean, it's like that in any sport, right? You would much rather play at home than have to travel from Pittsburgh to Seattle and play an early game with the time change and staying in a hotel. You would much rather be with your family at home in your comfortable environment. Same thing with horses. Same thing with trainers. Same thing with owners. No different. 2 outstanding races today. And again, this story is going to continue to unfold as we make our way toward Saturday, November 4th, Breeders' Cup Saturday. But that is Road to the Breeders' Cup. My thanks to George Papaprodromou for being with me here this morning. All right, time now for your Legends of the Turf segment. When I come back, we'll turn our attention to Kentucky Downs, getting ready to open their meet in September. But I want to give you a little preview of what's ahead. The huge purses, an additional $2 million race, the first at Kentucky Downs. I'll tell you more about that, and I'll tell you about all the handicapping contests. I welcome Ted Nicholson, the Vice President of Racing, after your Legends of the Turf in this short commercial break.
This tidbit of thoroughbred racing lore covers a time span. A time span, in this case, being the career of a horse which was a record setter while racing, but whose credentials as a sire stamped his name in capital letters on the now yellowing pages of recorded thoroughbred racing history. Calumet Farm purchased this horse as a yearling in 1936 at the Keeneland sale for $14,000 from Coldstream Studs Consignment. As a performer on the racetrack, he was good enough to win the Widener, Bluegrass, and Kenner Stakes, the Thornton Memorial, and the Autumn Handicap. At Keeneland, just a stone's throw from Calumet, he set track standards for 1 1/16 miles and 1 1/8 miles. In 27 starts, he had 10 wins, 7 seconds, and 2/3. That composite was accrued in 4 years of racing. He entered stud in 1944, a pittance, $750. But that quickly shot up when Twilight Tear and Duranza became successful on the racetrack as 2 of his progeny. These 2 were resultant of his first crop to race. He led the sire list 5 times, 1947, 48, 49, 52, and 53. He ranked second on the sire list 3 times, third once, 5th once, and 8th once. At the time of his death in 1964, he had been matched only by Starshot and the legendary Nasrullah as a leading sire. He was the very first stallion whose get over $1 million in a single season, and he did it in back-to-back years in 1946 and 47. His get included 28 $100,000 winners, and he sired 358 foals, of which 268 of them won. To the end of his final year at stud, his offspring had accounted for 1,723 wins. He was the daddy of the consummately superb Citation, the solid-performing, hard-knocking Coal Town, and the quintessential filly Bewitch, all from a single year's crop. The Witch and Twilight Tear were 2 of America's very best mares of all time. Our subject's thoroughbred sired 2 other Kentucky Derby winners in addition to Citation in 1948. He was the sire of Hillgale, who won in 1952, and Iron Liege, who won in 1957. For 5 years, from 1951 through 1956, his get held all 3 individual money-winning championships. Bewitch as a mare, Armed in 1947 and Citation in 1948 were horses of the year, and Coal Town was named Outstanding Performer of 1949. Another of his get, Bull Page, was Canadian Horse of the Year in 1951. His offspring included these divisional champions: 2-year-old Citation, 2-year-old fillies Duranza and Bewitch, 3-year-olds Twilight Tear and Citation, 3-year-old fillies Twilight Tear, Thule, Wistful, Next Move, and Real Delight. Handicap horse, Armed, twice by the way, Citation and Coal Town. Handicap mares, Bewitch, Twilight Tear, Thule, and Real Delight, and champion sprinter Coal Town. This remarkable thoroughbred led the list of broodmare sires for 4 successive seasons, 1958 through 1961, and the offspring of his daughters included Quadrangle, Ambiapoise, Blue Scope, Bourbon Prince, Finnegan, Good Moo, A Pat on the Back, Bardstown, On and On, Restless Wind, I Done, Tim Tam, Leala, Barbizon, Pucker Up, Duke's Lee, Lee Lane, and How Now. Among his subsequently becoming leading sires, including the likes of Citation, sire of Fabius, Silver Spoon, and many others, and Bo Max, sire of How Now and Golden Notes. At the time of his demise on June 16, 1964 at Calumet, he had established a record as the most successful sire of the 20th century in America. This son of Bulldog, out of Rose Leaves by ballot, who left many memories, records, and a statue next to his gravesite at Calumet, and whose legend lives on to this very day, was Bull Lee.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice. This is
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a first post of 1:30 p.m. Back this year is our popular 12% takeout Pick 5, which is now offered twice daily. We're also introducing the all-new Old Dominion 6, a $1 traditional Pick 6 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season on August 12th for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, which features the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and September 9th as we wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
Ellis Park is offering average daily purses of nearly $600,000 and a record $14 million in purses. Kentucky breds will compete for $70,000 in maiden special weight races and up to $80,000 in allowance races. And bettors will love the low 15% takeout Pick 5s and the 20-cent Jackpot Pick 6, along with a daily $3 all-turf Pick 3. For more information, visit EllisParkRacing.com. Ellis Park Pursers are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. First post, 12:45 p.m. Eastern.
The thrill of world-class racing is just beginning at Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack. Kick off the weekend's action now with racing each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, beginning at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, with Thursday twilight racing being added on May 25th. With more than $64 million in purses this season, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with the top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. You won't want to miss racing at Woodbine. For wagering updates, handicapping tips, racing news, and more, visit Woodbine.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
It's been some like it hot brown throughout so far. A Tone continues to pursue from the outside. Cavalry Charge coming 3 wide for the stretch drive. Field Pass in behind them, then Mr. Dumas. Pixelate splitting horses, Kentucky Ghost on the far outside. They're into the stretch, a quarter of a mile to go. Some like it hot brown on the inside, a Tone right up alongside. The two of them are stride for stride, a Tone and Some Like It Hot Brown. Field Pass is third. Up the rail, Mr. Dumas trying to make a late run. It is still Some Like It Hot Brown, a Tone and Mr. Dumas. Some Like It Hot Brown all the way in the WinStar Mint Million. A Tone was second, Mr. Dumas was third, and Field Pass was fourth.
That is the announcer, Larry Colmus, with the call of the Mint Million last year at Kentucky Downs. Some Like It Hot Brown getting the victory that day. The FanDuel meet opens August 31st, and we can't wait to see what unfolds in this year's Mint Million. The Mint Million, a purse increase this year, going to be the first $2 million race in the history of Kentucky Downs, and it will take place on Saturday, September 2nd. It is one of many outstanding storylines and outstanding things that horsemen will be able to look forward to, and horse players. Later this summer, Ted Nicholson is the Vice President of Racing at Kentucky Downs, and he joins me now on this edition of the Equine Forum. Ted, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. How are you?
well. And, you hear that call from Larry, and you start to really put yourself in the mindset of Kentucky Downs and Franklin, and it's going to be gangbusters this year. $2 million for the Mint Million. How about that?
Yeah, it's funny, Mike. Listening to Larry make that call, it just I've known Larry since our Suffolk Down days in the early '90s, and every time I hear his voice, call the races, I get excited for our races. So, the $2 million Mint Million, we're really, really excited about doing that. We've got a lot of stakes that we've elevated from last year. They could have been last year they were a $500 or a $600,000 stake. And this year we've elevated not just the Mint Million to $2 million, but we've elevated a lot of those $500,000 and $600,000 races up to $1 million races. We've got 9 $1 million stakes, which is crazy to say. And we've got the $2 million Mint Million. And then we also elevated the Kentucky Cup up to $1.7 million. So it is going to be an amazing, crazy couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're not talking about a 2-month meet with all of those different offerings. We're talking about 7 days of racing. And Ted, correct me if I'm wrong. The total purses offered, $24 million? Is that correct?
Yeah, we've ellipsed, gone past the $24 million mark.
Wow.
We're constantly trying to figure out, a better way, to do things and to get the Graded Stakes Committee to notice. Since I've been there, the last 8 or 9 years, we've been able to get 9 graded races, but now the goal is to get them to be grade 1s. So we're doing everything we possibly can, to reach that goal.
What goes into that decision on the part of the Graded Stakes Committee, Ted? You said you're trying to get them there. What do you do on your end to try to impress them, and what things are they looking for?
Well, obviously, the Graded Stakes Committee, what they do is they look at, what horses were running in your stakes over the last 2 years, and what then after they've run in your stakes, where they have run after that. And obviously, if you're bringing in grade 1 horses to run, in our races, and then they turn around and run big, either in a grade 1 at Keeneland or Churchill or Breeders' Cup or what have you, that bodes well for us, when they're sitting down in December or January and figuring out, who gets what.
It's not just the stakes program that's outstanding at Kentucky Downs. You also have the world's richest maiden races. How about this? $150,000 for Kentucky breds. Incredible.
It's a great thing. It really is. And quite honestly, Mike, it wasn't that long ago, and I'm thinking maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, we were, I think, the Commonwealth of Kentucky was third when you looked at overall purse structures. And now with HHR really helping us, historical horse racing, helping us and Churchill and Keeneland and the other tracks, now we're first. And, you're seeing Kentucky, be the leaders, as far as thoroughbred racing goes in the United States. And, obviously we'd like to see it in the world.
Yeah, the slogan, the horseman's racetrack, that applies to Kentucky Downs, I think is appropriate because so many horsemen will be there. So many of the top horsemen, the top stables from all over the country are going to be there because of the tremendous purses. But that also leads to big fields, and big fields, especially in turf racing, lead to big handle, and horse players love them, so the bettors get to benefit from this too. So tell me more about what the bettors can expect and some of the contests you're going to be hosting throughout the meet.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, all handicappers love a bigger field because then there's more value. And personally, I always liked betting a grass race than a dirt race. So I could see where the draw is. We have full fields, we have grass racing, and large purses. So it does, lend itself to being something everybody circles on the calendar. But as far as the bigger player, the player that's looking for, the contest, a few years ago, I employed or borrowed Brian Skirka from Monmouth Park, who's one of the top organizers of handicapping contests. And, he's put this together. We've tweaked it a little bit here or there the last couple of years, but more or less it's the same this year as last. It'll be a 3 separate contests on 3 of our 7 days. The first one would be opening day, August 31st. They're all live money contests. And then the second one is Sunday, September 3rd. And then the last one is on our big day, September 9th, which on that day we have 6 races worth at least $1 million, with the Kentucky Cup being 1.7. And so if you play in all 3 contests, which many of these guys do, then you're eligible, for the big prize, the overall winner of the 3 contest series. They'll be named the king of the turf and recognized at the NHC. That it goes a long way with when you're carrying around a championship wrestling belt, to show that you are the top turf handicapper in the country.
Talking with Ted Nicholson, the Vice President of Racing at Kentucky Downs. The FanDuel meet begins August 31st, runs through September 13th. 7 days of racing, more than $24 million in purses, the huge purses for Kentucky-bred maidens, and plenty of opportunities for horse players as well, including those contests that Ted just outlined. Ted, our good friend Jenny Reese, the Hall of Fame turf writer, coined the phrase, "There's unique and there's Kentucky Downs." And I've been using that on some of the commercials we run here on the network, and I really think it sums everything up perfectly because the configuration of the racetrack, the type of racing you see at Kentucky Downs is extremely unique. Explain some of that and explain the reaction you get from horsemen when they come there, especially if they're coming there for the first time.
Well, she is 100% correct, and we use that phrase unique all the time. But what's unique about Kentucky Downs is, one, we don't have a quote grandstand like you would have at any other racetrack you probably would go to in the United States. It's more of country fair atmosphere. We throw up tents, and I've built some pavilions. But for more or less, there's tailgating and that type of thing. But the physical racetrack, you start at the mile pole and you go gradually up a hill to the 3/4, and then at 3/4 you go down a hill and around the turn. You get to the top of the stretch and you still have over 3/8 of a mile to run, and then you gradually do go back uphill. It's not dramatic, the stretch, but I will tell you that it's amazing, not just horsemen, but even media. When they come to the track for the first time, one of them last year said to me, "Oh my God, this is like walking into Wrigley Field for the first time and seeing the green ivy." It is unique, and it's just incredibly different than what anybody else has seen, in their racetrack ventures.
Okay, you have a voice on national radio right now, and there are people listening to us all over the world through our streaming and our podcast, and listeners last year in more than 140 countries, 150 countries. It was a massive number. So if I'm a horseman, if I'm a trainer, and I've never been to Kentucky Downs, and you're recruiting me, Ted, to come there and run horses this meet, we already talked about the purses, but Give me your sales pitch. How do you get me there?
Well, first off, if you're coming in, you're gonna probably want to fly into Nashville. We're 35 minutes north of one of the most popular places to be these days in the U.S. Once you come on property, you will see this very, quote, unique place. But if you're horsemen, we cater to you. If you're in a stake, you're going to be in an air-conditioned building, an air-conditioned chalet. If you're in a non-graded stake, you're going to be sitting right on the wire in an open-air, beautiful area right next to the paddock. What another treat that we have added for our horsemen that come, I noticed that when horsemen would leave the paddock, they would walk onto the apron and strain their necks to try and see their horse come down the stretch. So what we did was I built a 2-story viewing area this year. So the horsemen can literally walk right out of the paddock and go up some steps, and they will have the same view that the stewards have. So it's going to be great for them and convenient for them as well. As far as the turf course itself, I think our turf course is as nice and plush as you're going to find, at any racetrack in America. Butch Lear does an amazing, amazing job. I begged him to come out of retirement and a few years ago, and Butch just does a great job, knows exactly how to handle that turf course, and he has made it very, very strong. We have 3 lanes, so we're never on any lane more than a couple of days. So what more could you want?
Ted, that is one heck of a sales pitch. Well done. I can see why you're the right man for the job down there at Kentucky Downs.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. We can't wait for the meet to kick off. The FanDuel meet, again, begins August 31st, and if you want to learn more, you can go to the Kentucky Downs website and check out all the things that they have to offer. That is the Mint, KentuckyDowns.com. Ted, appreciate the time here this morning, and all the best at this upcoming meet, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
I forgot to mention our hotel is finally done. So
that's awesome.
There's another factor for somebody that wants to come. Our hotel is finally done, and you can start booking rooms right away. But I was in the hotel just the other day, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw one other plug in here because it ties into the way that you're describing everything. One of the items you might want to throw into your sales pitch for people who have been coming to Lexington, horsemen who are based in Lexington. If you've been to Lexington for the sales or the race meet, so many of you have visited our longtime friends and partners, Tony's of Lexington, and there is now a new Tony's in Bowling Green, which is just a short little jaunt from Kentucky Downs, and you won't want to miss it when you're there. So, Ted, they can go to the races at Kentucky Downs, they can make a reservation at Tony's in Bowling Green, and they can go have a fantastic dinner after the races. So a lot of things to look forward to.
Absolutely. I just ate there the other night, and it was tremendous.
Yep, it is the best, no doubt about it. Ted, appreciate it, my friend. All the best, and we'll talk soon.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Ted Nicholson here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll get you ready for the second hour of the program. A little teaser. It begins with the Hall of Famer, Pat Day. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
With every race, every stride and sprint, winning is everything, especially when you've dedicated everything you have to get there. But winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race is just the beginning of something bigger. An invitation to one of the most anticipated events in horse racing, the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race turns a finish line into the start of your legacy, a starting gate into the world stage, one race into once in a lifetime. Winning earns you an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race, entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a nominator award of $10,000, and a travel award of up to $40,000. When it comes to cementing your legacy, Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
Attention horsemen, the 2023 Claiming Crown is coming to the fairgrounds in New Orleans on Saturday, December 2nd. The 25th Claiming Crown features 8 races totaling $1 million in base purses, headlined by the $200,000 Claiming Crown Jewel at 1 1/8 miles. The deadline to make horses eligible for the Claiming Crown is November 18th, with entries to be taken November 25th. Eligibility request forms and more information is available at claimingcrown.com.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Quills Way and Louis Quatorze running 1-2. Opening up on the field now. It's 3.5 lengths back to Secreto de Estado. An editor's note in the midst of his rally, but he's got a lot to do. He's 7 lengths behind as the field comes to the top of the stretch. It's Quills Way with the Preakness winner Louis Quatorze right at his neck. And they head for home now. Jorge Chavez is all over Will's Way, pleading for one more furlong, and he is stubbornly holding on to the lead. Louis Quatorze doing his all, trying to get by him. It is still Will's Way, tenacious and in front. Louis Quatorze on the outside, and he forges past in the shadow of the wire. Will's Way, second on the line to Louis Quatorze, who wins it narrowly.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Tom Durkin with the call of the 1996 running of the Jim Dandy. Louis Quatorze outlasting Will's Way. Louis Quatorze ridden by Pat Day, one of 3 wins in the Jim Dandy for Pat. And Pat, of course, tied with Hall of Famer Javier Castellano for most wins in the AG Vanderbilt with 4. Both of those races being renewed this afternoon at Saratoga. We'll see Champion Forte coming up in the Jim Dandy. And, of course, Elite Power, the leader in the sprint division, going in the AG Vanderbilt. Javier cannot top Pat Day because he's not riding in the AG Vanderbilt, so he will not be able to pull ahead and take over sole possession of first place in that race. Pat Day, this is a special anniversary for him. He's going to join me coming up in just a few minutes at 9 o'clock Eastern. It was 50 years ago today that Pat Day won his first career race. Pat now has 8,803 wins to his credit when he retired. That is good for 4th best all time. I think earlier in the show I said 5th best all time. That's 4th best in terms of wins. He's 5th best in terms of career earnings. So not only did he win all those races, he won the right races, as we know. One of the best to ever do it. Pat's going to visit with me coming up at 9 Eastern. He'll talk about that day at Prescott Downs in Arizona 50 years ago, and he'll look back on his wins in the Jim Dandy and the AG Vanderbilt. Should be a wonderful trip down memory lane with Pat Day. And then at 9:30, you're going to hear from owner Mike Repole and trainer Dale Romans. They'll be with me together, and we're going to have a conversation discussing the current state of the racing industry, and the future of racing. Mike Repole came out with a statement this week on Horse Racing Nation and said if he can't make change in the next 3 years, he can see a scenario where he's not in the game in 3 years. That would be a huge loss to racing. Going to visit with them for a very candid discussion coming up at 9:30 Eastern. Of course, 10 o'clock, James Scully going to be with me to kick off Hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. You'll hear Kurt Becker stroll through racing history. And I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. We're going to draw the winner of the contest, the person who will take on Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2, which begins next week here on HRRN. All of that straight ahead, Hour 2, Hour 3, lots more to come here on the Equine Forum right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, Horse Racing's voice.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Equine Forum. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. This show, of course, presented every week by our friends at TwinSpires. If you're betting the races this weekend, bet them at TwinSpires.com. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, my conversation with trainer George Papaprodromou, talking about his 2 contenders coming up in this afternoon's Bing Crosby, or Ted Nicholson, the Vice President of Racing at Kentucky Downs. All you have to do is head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast at your leisure. You can also do that on every podcast platform. So however you access your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network, and you'll be able to listen anytime that you like to all of our programming throughout the week. Asking you this poll question this morning, and many of you chiming in on our Twitter feed at HRRN and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you're emailing the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net with your answers. If the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint is going to come from one of the 2 Grade 1 races being contested this afternoon, the Bing Crosby at Del Mar or the AG Vanderbilt at Saratoga, which one is it most likely to be? I think it's an interesting question because you have the defending champ Elite Power in the AG Vanderbilt and Saratoga, and you have a field of really talented runners in the Bing Crosby who have been close on many occasions in the Breeders' Cup, but yet to get to the top of the mountain in the Bing Crosby. So it's a very compelling question, and I thank all of you who are taking time to weigh in and voice your opinions. I'll try to get to some of those results later in the program, but without further ado, this is a very special day for Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day. I told you that it was 50 years ago today that Pat rode his very first career winner, the first of 8,803 winners in that Hall of Fame. It came in that Hall of Fame career. It came at Prescott Downs in Prescott, Arizona. And Pat Day is with me now to look back on that day and so many other top moments in his career. Pat, really appreciate the time. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning to you, and what a special occasion. Hard to believe it's been 50 years already.
Isn't that hard to believe? July 29th, 1973, the horse's name, well, you probably remember, four-blunged a $2,000 claiming race at Prescott Downs.
Yep, and a monstrous purse of $600. and my 10% of the winner's share of that purse, I think, was $36. And I thought, I'll never have another bad day.
Unbelievable. And, at that point, everybody starts somewhere in this world, right, Pat? And nobody knew Pat Day at that point. You're riding in Arizona at a small track in a low-level claiming race, and could you ever imagine 8,803 wins later we'd be talking here, and you're sitting here as a Hall of Famer?
No, sir. No, I could not have envisioned that even by the furthest stretch of my imagination. I was very, very new to the game. I knew very little about horse racing. I just knew that I loved the thrill of participating, and certainly, winning that first race, I was ecstatic. Needless to say, it happened happened to be on the last race. It was on a Sunday afternoon. They only ran on Saturdays and Sundays there at Prescott. They ran 12 races a day. They were 9 thoroughbreds and 3/4 horse races. But this was a thoroughbred. It was the last race of the day. And we got up in the shadow of the wire. It was a miserable, rainy, muddy day that day. And got up in the shadow of the wire. And, oh, man, I just couldn't wait to get the winners, get the picture. And subsequently never got a picture because under the conditions, the track photographer's camera got wet, malfunctioned, and so we never got a shot, never got a picture of it. But
wow,
I remember it like yesterday, and it was we got up in the shadow of the wire, and it was just incredibly exciting. And trainer Carl Pugh was kind enough to give me an opportunity and to ride some of these horses, and just played a monumental role in getting what turned out to be a Hall of Fame career kicked off.
Pat, you said you didn't know a lot about horse racing, so take me back to the early days of Pat Day. What led you to initially want to become a jockey and ride races?
Well, in my younger days, when I was growing up, summertime activities was going to rodeos, and I loved the rodeo life. I loved the competing, participating, and when I graduated high school, I was trying to be a professional bull rider. I had very limited success in the rodeo arena, but in the course of my travels, I met a number of people that inquired or questioned whether I'd ever thought about being a jockey. I mean, I'm 4'11", weighed 100 pounds, and it was pretty obvious I didn't have a lot of talent on the back of a bull. But a fellow gave me his name and number and said, if you ever have an interest, give me a call. At that point, I'd had no interest whatsoever. But at the end of the rodeo season in 1972, I said, man, what am I going to do? Yeah, let's be a jockey. Now, I'd never been to the races, knew nothing about horse racing. I'd heard of the Kentucky Derby, Bill Shoemaker, and Eddie Arcaro. That was the extent of my knowledge about the great sport of horse racing. And this friend made a few, I called him, he made a few calls, got me a job on a thoroughbred farm in California, Riverside Thoroughbred Farm, which was owned by Farrell Jones. The farm manager was a fellow named Gene Cummings. And there was a young man coming out there late mornings that was breaking babies, a guy named Richard Mandela. And
wow.
So anyway, when I got there, I sat down with Mr. Cummings and Mr. Jones, and they said, you want to be a jockey? I said, yeah. They said, well, we think you need to be on the farm 2 to 3 years, learn the business from the ground up, which is the absolute correct way to go. They said, you need to be on the farm for 2 to 3 years. Then we'll go to the racetrack, put you to work with a trainer. You'll be there for a year, experience your life at the racetrack, watch the races, study films, and do that for a year. You'll be ready to start riding. Well, at the end of a month, at that time, I didn't have a lot of patience. I was like a rolling stone, and at the end of a month, I said, no way I want to be on this farm for 2 to 3 years before I can actually be competitive. And so I left. But by the grace of God, and I know that it was divine guidance that ultimately led me to the racetrack in Arizona. Carl Pugh, who had been, a professional cowboy, a team roper, he'd just started training a few years previously, training racehorses. And he befriended me, gave me a job galloping these horses. And by midsummer, I was like, Carl, man, I want to start riding. And he agreed to let me ride a few of his horses. And lo and behold, July 29th, last race of the day on a horse called Four Blunge, we got up and won our first race, and had no idea that that the career that lay before me. Had no idea that I would ever wind up anywhere close to the Derby or Belmont or I was very I didn't even know about all those races, so
when did you realize, Pat, that you were pretty good at riding horses?
Knowledgeable horse people would tell you that they saw something special in me right away. Now, my temperament and attitude, they didn't know if that was going to cause me to self-destruct or if the talent and ability that was there was going to be able to come to fruition. But, I won my first race July 29th. I'd been on the farm in January that same year. I think it's pretty clear to say that I've been blessed with tremendous talent and ability. And by January of 1974, I was the leading rider at Turf Paradise. Now, granted, Turf Paradise isn't Churchill Downs or Belmont Park or Santa Anita, but to be leading rider 1 year after you got introduced to the great sport of horse racing anywhere is nothing short of miraculous. And again, I think it's just, indication of the incredible talent and ability that the Lord had blessed me with. And, it came so fast and furious. I'm sorry to say, I really didn't respect or appreciate where I was at and what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Took it all for granted. Like, oh yeah, I'd done my time. What, a month on the farm? Come on, so, I was running wild. The success came so fast and furious that I didn't appreciate or respect it. At the end of the day, I was looking for higher highs and, got involved with drugs and drinking and just a crazy lifestyle. And in the midst of all of that was continuing to be decidedly successful. But it came full circle in January of 1984 when, after having won the national riding title twice, and realizing that fame and fortune wasn't what it cracked up to be, that I had an encounter with Jesus Christ in a hotel room in Miami, and really came full circle. At that moment in time was when I realized that, or shortly thereafter, that God had in fact blessed me with tremendous talent and ability. This wasn't of my own accord; it was a gift. And as such, I needed to take it and do the very best that I possibly could, endeavoring to live a life that would be pleasing to God and would bring praise and honor and glory under my blessed Savior.
Well, and Pat Day has done that, and he continued to do that to this very day. And he's with me now on the Horse Racing Radio Network, the Hall of Famer. 50 years ago today, rode his first career winner. 8,803 wins later, he wrapped up his career, and he is in the Hall of Fame. And, Pat, this is a day when we celebrate the Jim Dandy Stakes at Saratoga, the AG Vanderbilt at Saratoga. Those are races that you're extremely familiar with. You've been in the Jim Dandy winner's circle on 3 different occasions with Polish Navy, Louis Quatorze, and Favorite Trick, and you're tied with fellow Hall of Famer Javier Castellano with 4 wins apiece for most wins in the AG Vanderbilt. When you think about those 2 races, what things immediately come to mind for you?
Oh, geez. Just to win races, period, at Saratoga, it was just such a blessing. It was such a joy to go up there and participate. And, of course, to win races of that magnitude is just I don't have the words for it.
Earlier, we played the stretch call of Louis Quatorze. It was one of my favorite Pat Day rides, one of my favorite races. I remember that Jim Dandy in 1996, and he got past Will's Way. 2 really good horses giving their all through the stretch that day.
A great performance by Louis. Nick had done a tremendous job of getting him prepared for the race, and he ran brilliant. Somebody asked me one time, what's the key to your success? And it's very simply capital STOCK, beyond the stock. And, obviously riding Louis that day, I was very well mounted, and he performed admirably, and we were able to get the victory.
Well, I can inform you that you're going to stay tied with Javier at the top of the list in the AG Vanderbilt because Javier's not riding the race today. So the 2 of you will remain tied at 4 wins apiece in that race. Pat, how much when you were really in the prime of your career and you're competing every day, how much do those types of records mean to a jockey? Are they important?
I think while we're in the midst of it, we're probably not even conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, when you ride out on the racetrack, you go, okay, let's see, I've won this race twice or 4 times. I'm like if Javier was riding today and he rode out on the racetrack for the Vanderbilt, I don't think that he'd go, oh wow, I'm tied with Pat for 4. Maybe today I can surpass him. I think it's something that after the fact, certainly after I retired and I've had a chance to reflect back on the incredibly successful racing career that the Lord blessed us with, it's at this time that I can appreciate that and appreciate the records and all that we were able to accomplish. But when you're in the midst of it, you're just trying to win every race, and just trying to do the best that you can. And by the grace of God, the numbers stack up and the records come.
Pat, you are very involved. We have about 2 minutes left before I have to get to my next commercial break, but you are very involved now with the Racetrack Chaplaincy of America, and the White Horse Award nominations are now open. That's a very special award which individuals can win. But talk a little bit more about your work with the chaplaincy and what you're doing now.
Well, after the encounter with Jesus in the motel room in January of '84, Mike Spencer, who was the chaplain at Oaklawn Park, became my spiritual mentor and best friend, and I was not sure exactly what I was supposed to do. Was I to leave the industry, go to the seminary, become a minister, but keep writing? I was in a bit of a quandary, and so Mike mentored me. He prayed with me. We sought the scriptures. Through that process, the Lord revealed to me that He'd saved me to work within the industry, not to leave it, take the talent and ability, do the best that I could, being open to opportunities to give Him the praise, the honor, and the glory. Well, then is now the only vehicle that's actively endeavoring to bring the gospel message to the horse racing industry was the Racetrack Chaplaincy. And so I immediately threw in my lot with them, became supportive of them and involved with them, and have continued to be so. We have, I think, 50-some chaplains now ministering at all of the major racetracks throughout North America, and we have ministries around the world, but our chaplains there to meet some of the physical, some of the material needs of the racetrack personnel, but more importantly, to offer them hope through the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ and to show them the joy of having a personal, intimate relationship with Him. And so I'm still not as hands-on involved today as I was, but still very supportive and encouraging them and doing all that we can to continue to promote the cause of Christ within the horse racing industry.
Well, Pat, the chaplaincy is lucky to have you as a supporter and as a longtime advocate for the chaplaincy. And I know the sport is very privileged and lucky to have you and your 50 years ago today that you rode that very first winner. I know we're all thankful for that, and I'm glad you chose not to be a bull rider and be a jockey, my friend. Well done. Great career, and thanks for taking a little time to look back on some of those moments with me this morning.
Well, it's been great to be on with you, and God's blessings to you and all of your listeners, and be safe. God bless.
Thanks, Pat. Pat Day, the Hall of Famer here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Again, 50 years ago today, Pat rode his first career winner at Prescott Downs in Arizona. Who knew? He didn't know where that career was going to wind up, and you heard him talk about some of the things that he went through. There are plenty of interviews on our website. If you Google Pat Day, one in particular, a Jock Talk interview that was done with Pat, and he really got into a lot of details of everything he went through. It's a really incredible conversation. Go back and search Pat Day on our website, horseracingradio.net, and treat yourself to that replay. When I come back, I'll take a look at the information for the Kentucky Bred update, and I'll get you ready for my conversation with Mike Repole and Dale Romans. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Millridge Farms Oscar Performance. In 2022, Oscar Performance, with just his first crop racing, was ranked as the #1 sire of all 2-year-olds on turf by Progeny Earnings. And now, his offspring are performing at the highest level on the dirt, led by Red Carpet Ready, Tumbarumba, Actafool, and Deer District, whose trainer Dale Romans touted Oscar Performance early on.
That Oscar Performance thing was special. He's going to make it as a sire, too. Everywhere you go, you hear people talking about how much they like the babies.
Take a moment to check out the only 2 Oscar Performance yearlings on offer with Millridge at the upcoming Fasig-Tipton Select Sale, August 7th and 8th.
Get ready for another week of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino in Altoona, Iowa, starting Friday, July 28th. The 4-day racing week will be highlighted by the Iowa Stallion Futurity for 2-year-olds at 5.5 furlongs on Saturday, July 29th. Post time on Friday and Saturday is 6 p.m. Central, then 4 p.m. Central on Sunday and Monday. Experience the thrill of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino, Iowa's favorite place to play. Visit prairiemeadows.com for more information.
Hey everyone, it's the Baron with this week's North of the Border report presented by Woodbine Entertainment. The Grade 2 Seagram Cup is once again renewed as the featured event this afternoon at Woodbine. Contested at 8.5 furlongs over the all-weather Tapeta, the Seagram Cup for 3-year-olds and up carries a $175,000 purse and a history of top-class winners dating back to its inaugural running in 1903 at the old Woodbine Racetrack. Retired Hall of Fame jockey Sandy Hawley holds the record for most victories in the race with 7. No trainer has been better than Hall of Fame trainer Jim Day, who won the race on 4 occasions, and the colors of historic Samson Farms have appeared in the winner's circle following the Seagram Cup more than any other. Among the notable winners are champions Regal Embrace, Sky Classic, and One for Rose, guaranteeing the winner of today's renewal of the Seagram Cup will reside in illustrious company. First post this afternoon is 1:05 p.m. And that's your North of the Border report for this Saturday morning. For more updates and racing information, visit woodbine.com or follow along on both Twitter and Instagram at WoodbineTB.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back, Mike Penna. Continuing on this Saturday morning, great conversation there with Pat. Somebody who's been through an awful lot in his life and his career and now doing wonderful things to help other people. He's been doing that for a long time, but his career, and look, let's make no bones about it. I've told this story many, many times on the show. Pat Day, when he was riding, was not my favorite jockey. Matter of fact, he was my least favorite jockey because as many races, 8,803 wins that Pat Day accumulated over his career, I think I bet against him all 8,803 times. Pat Day was one of those jockeys that I would zig when I was supposed to zag. I couldn't catch him. If he won, I was betting against him. If I bet against him, he would win. He was my least favorite jockey when he was riding, but I respected him, but he was my least favorite jockey. I couldn't win a bet with him. Mike Smith, a whole different story. Chris McCarron, a whole different story. And when I was first getting into racing, those guys were rolling, Pat Day too. And that's what I based, for me anyway. I didn't know these riders on a personal level like I do now with so many of them, but that's what I based my opinion of riders on, was whether or not I was cashing bets with them when I would bet on them. I did with Mike Smith. I did with Chris McCarron. That's why they became my 2 favorite riders. Then, of course, Mike Smith got aboard Holy Bull, and Holy Bull, my all-time favorite horse, and so on and so on. But that's how I was a very jaded horse player back when I first got into racing. And I would not like a jockey if I could not cash a bet. And Pat Day was my nemesis. As good as he was, I would always pick the wrong race to bet on him. But now it's fun to catch up with him and talk about all of those big wins. And looking back on his win 50 years ago to kick off his career. Pretty cool stuff. Have a few minutes here before I get to Mike Repole and Dale Romans. They're going to join me together for an extended conversation coming up at 9:30 Eastern. Going to talk about the current state of racing and then what the future may hold. Mike Repole has been extremely vocal since the scratch of Forte from this year's Kentucky Derby. And Dale Romans is never shy with his opinion. And Dale, by the way, going to be back with me for the final segment of the show at 10:30 Eastern. I Ask, They Answer with Tim Wilkin. We are drawing the winner from all the entries that have been submitted. We're drawing the winner of one lucky listener who is going to take on Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2, which begins next week. You'll join us on the program. You will draft your team of 5 horses plus an alternate fantasy style, and they will accumulate points starting next Saturday all the way through Breeders' Cup Saturday. It's a great format. All of the rules are posted on our website. But again, entries are closed, so you can't submit an entry. We are drawing the winner coming up later today. You know, Kentucky breds have won 75% of the Grade 1 races in the U.S. thus far this year. Kentucky breds have captured 73% of the greatest stakes races in the U.S. this year. And Kentucky breds make up 14 of 15 millionaire earners this year, led by 2023's leading earner and Kentucky Derby winner Mage with a bankroll of more than $2.4 million. In addition, owners and breeders continue to benefit from Kentucky's rich purse structure and competitive year-round racing. Combined purse money with the association and the KTDF paid out an all-time high of more than $165 million in 2022, following a previous benchmark of more than $134 million set in 2021. Average field size in Kentucky is 8.4, higher than Florida, New York, and California, and average purse per race in Kentucky is more than $77,000, outpacing all other leading racing jurisdictions, including Arkansas, New York, California, and Florida. Find your Kentucky bred at this year's upcoming yearling sales. Do not miss your chance. For more information, visit KentuckyBreds.com. Breed, we all win. Coming up next, Dale, Mike Repole. Going to be a really interesting conversation. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all #1 in their category. Point of entry, the #1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the #1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the #1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the #1 stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front. Admiralty peer out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
Are you ready for some summer fun? Then head to Laurel Park for the Hotter Than July Summer Sizzlers. With 11 stakes totaling $1,075,000 over 3 weekends, you won't want to miss out. Whether you're a horse racing fan or just looking for a fun day out, the July Summer Sizzlers are sure to entertain. You won't be disappointed. The July Summer Sizzlers, excitement for the whole family. Visit laurelpark.com/summer-sizzlers for more information.
Achieve Equine, makers of Flair Equine nasal strips, brings you innovative, evidence-based products for the health and well-being of your equine athletes, like the new Impact Protection Half Pad from Europe, VIP Equestrian, that provides a superior layer of cushioning for the horse's back. Visit achieveequine.com for more information on the innovative products we offer. That's achieveequine.com. Breathe easy, we've got your back.
DeMarshall offers breeders a rare opportunity as the only son of Dubawi standing in Kentucky. Dubawi, one of the world's most celebrated stallions, is now a sire of sires. His top sons at stud are making a name for themselves across the globe. With a picture-perfect pedigree, this son of Dubawi brings one of the world's most potent bloodlines to America. DeMarshall, standing at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Forte's locked in as Mage begins to roll from the back. They race past the quarter-mile pole in the Florida Derby, and Mage got the jump on Forte as he goes to get Fort Bragg. Cyclone Mischief is fighting hard. He's still right there. Less than a quarter of a mile to come, and Cyclone Mischief, he's up for a fight and tries to turn away Mage. Forte better hurry up. Final 16th of a mile. Forte starts to gather in the top horses. Here comes Forte. This is going to be very close, but the champion prevails. Forte wins over Mage. Mage was second. Third, Cyclone Mischief. Then Mr. Repole, Fort Bragg for the high five. He gave you a scare, but he got it done. On to Louisville for Forte.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum. Mike Penna with you on this Saturday morning. Pete Aiello with the call to the Florida Derby. Forte rolling that day. Well, it was a workmanlike effort, but he did get up and win the Florida Derby. It stamped him as the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. And Forte back in action in the Jim Dandy Stakes this afternoon at Saratoga. He is going to be a tough out for the competition there, and he is owned by Mike Repole. Mike Repole, also the owner of Nest, who won the Chuvie last weekend, defeating Clairiere in her 4-year-old debut. So it is a good time to be Mike Repole in that respect. But owner Mike Repole has been outspoken, talking about his frustration with racing over the past few months. His champion Forte, who we just talked about, the favorite in this year's Kentucky Derby, scratched the morning of the race, a decision which then precluded him from racing in the Preakness Stakes 2 weeks later. But that was just the beginning. On the morning of the Belmont Stakes, when Forte would return, Repole issued a statement on Twitter calling for change, calling for reform, a commissioner, a national marketing and PR firm for the sport. Certainly not new concepts, but maybe now is the time. And Repole went further this past week, saying to Horse Racing Nation, if I can't make change in the next 3 years, I don't see myself being in the game after that. Think about the impact of that statement. Mike Repole and Vinny Viola teamed to purchase 31 yearlings at the Keeneland September sale last year, more than $12 million in yearlings. Repole was the fourth highest individual buyer with 27 yearlings, more than $7 million spent on those yearlings. That's a huge loss if a guy like Mike Repole steps away from the game. Mike is with me now. He's joined by Dale Romans, who you're familiar with from our weekly I Ask, They Answer programs. Dale, never short with an opinion. We're going to talk about some issues facing the sport now and what the future may hold. Mike, first of all, good morning to you, my friend. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, Mike, how are you? I'm at the barn now.
Yeah, really do appreciate the conversation here. Dale Romans. Dale, thanks for sitting in, my friend.
No, always glad to talk with a guy like Mike. He's got a lot of good points.
Dale.
Hey, Mike, good to talk to you.
There are so many things that we can discuss here, Mike, but before we jump into this whole conversation, I just want to take 1 second to look back at Nest and the impressive effort that she put in last week in the Chuvie, and then share your thoughts on the champ coming back today in the Jim Dandy.
Nest is really special. Coming back off an eight-month layoff, Dale knows how tough that is, obviously training so many great horses. And to run against a horse like Clairiere at a track that's pretty deep like Saratoga, and, she's just she's special. And, you never know how a horse is going to develop from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. And if she can do this with her first start back and beat a horse of the quality of Clairiere, who had 3 starts this year, I think we're in for something special in the back half of the year. We're really, really excited about her.
How excited are you for Forte?
Today's a big day. He's training great. He looks great. To come back off a 10-week rest and run 1.5 miles in the Test of Champions in the Belmont and finish second. You couldn't have asked for a better effort. He's working well. We put blinkers on him the other day. Irad and Todd wanted to do something a little bit different, and he's leaning on horses a little bit. He's a little bit more focused. We're really, really excited about Forte, and I still think he's the top 3-year-old of the division. And today he's going to either prove it or we're going to say somebody else is. But big day today.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the scratch of Forte the morning of the Kentucky Derby was the first time that, Mike, I really saw you express your frustration, and rightfully so. But I want to start with something you put out there on Twitter Belmont morning when Forte was running in the Belmont, and you called for reform, you called for change. This is nothing new. We've seen people do this over the years. But you mentioned a commissioner, a national marketing and PR firm to help the sport. And I'm going to kind of throw it to you, and then Dale, if you want to jump in with some of your thoughts, and we'll just have a three-way conversation here. But, Mike, take me back through your thought process there, and what has you so frustrated right now?
Well, listen, it's 10 years of pent-up frustration and hoping for some change in a game that really is a labor of love for whether you're an owner, whether you're a trainer, whether you're an employee at the track, or whether you cover the sport. And when that labor of love and the love goes away, then it just becomes strenuous work and tough labor. And then you got to look yourself in the mirror, and you really got to say, do I really want to do this? And for someone who loves the sport and is passionate about it as me, right now the frustration of the sport has been offset, even with horses like Up to the Mark, even with horses like Nest, even with horses like Forte. And, I said 3 years, and I have those horses. If I didn't have those horses, I might be saying 3 months, to be honest with you. So, this is now, there are times that you ask for change. There's times that you ask people to gather around and support, and let's do this. And then there's times someone has to step up and say, either we're going to change or good luck in the sport. I can't do this anymore. But I want to be very clear. I'm not giving up in this sport. I'm talking to Churchill. I'm talk to David O'Rourke at Naira. I want to talk to Aiden and Belinda. I've talked to the Jockey Club. I've talked to the Breeders' Cup. I'm talking to a lot. I speak to Lisa Lazarus. She's up here this weekend. I'm going to see her this weekend. So I'm not just saying, I'm going to take my ball and run. I'm saying we're going to play with the right rules, and everybody's going to, do what's best for the sport. I don't want what's best for Mike Repole. I want what's best for the horses. I want what's best for the gambler. I want what's best for the owners. I want what's best for the trainers. And right now, we have none of that. And it's really a situation that if somebody doesn't step up in the next 2 years, the sport's not going to be here in 5 years anyway. So all I'm going to be doing is getting out 2 years before everybody else, because the sport won't exist. Tracks are closing left and right. People are frustrated. Poor trainers, can't even, they're guilty with an overage every single time. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible sport. And I'm watching trainers like Dale Romans, and I'm watching trainers like Bob Baffert, and I'm watching trainers like Todd Pletcher. And who wants to put their kids in the sport? Nobody. So what's the future of the sport? Right now, there is none.
Mike, I 100% agree with you. There's so many problems that we have in our game. And the problem is we all can't get in at a round table where everyone's equal and discuss the issues. All these new changes and things, as you know, have been forced down people's throats without really thinking them through and looking at the cause and consequence of all the actions that are going on. I've got a lot of respect and a lot of hope that Lisa is one of them that can come up and help fix the game. But until we have the big names like yourself and your partner, Vinny, you're two guys that could really get this ball rolling and go the right direction. And HISA might be the thing to grow out of, but they've got to listen to the horseman's side, and I appreciate you talking to her. I hope you'll have a good conversation this weekend.
Dale, not only am I talking to her, and I really do like Lisa, so I want to be very clear. I like Lisa. But I reached out to Lisa. Lisa didn't reach out to me. And their board, I don't know anybody on that board. I don't know if they have any association with horse racing. So when you start to put people in the game that don't really understand it and don't really want to talk to like guys like Dale Romans and someone like Mike Repole, then you got to question whether they really know what they're doing. I think that HISA is needed, but I think it's needed in a way different. There was one thing about the old rules and the Gaming Commission, and by the way, the Gaming Commissions are embarrassing to the next level. New York State Gaming Commission takes the cake. You couldn't get a more incompetent gaming commission than that one. It represents one of the biggest states in racing. So, when they look like Mickey Mouse, can you imagine what the other tracks look like? So, Lisa now has, unfortunately, I guess we live in a world where guilty until proven innocence, and then 4 days later she scratches every single horse, and they're like, nope, we made a mistake. We're going to come back, or we're going to relook at it. Why not have a process and system in place that it says, you know what, we want to move fast, but move fast is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's not 4 minutes where you could hurt out you can hurt a trainer's career. You could penalize an owner in his stable that has a horse running that weekend in a Grade 1 because, oops, I made a mistake. Don't worry. Tuesday he's back. Go back to entries. Total BS.
You're 100% right. And what his is coming into the game to do and to make for the next 100 years in horse racing to keep it together. So when you talk about fast, when you compare it to 100 years we're going to be around, fast, like you say, is weeks or months or years to get it up and rolling in the proper way. And, you know, it just shows you what Churchill did to Bob Baffert by giving him another year this year should be criminal. What NYRA, what you're talking about, the License and Rate Wagering Board, what they did 10 years to Rick Dutrow should be criminal. That cannot happen in other sports because they don't look at personalities. They look at your actions. You know, when you talk to Churchill, I would like for you to ask them to come out and tell you exactly what Bob did wrong after his 2-year suspension was up, that he needed another year. Don't just tell in general that he's hurt horse racing. I can't think of one thing that he's done.
But Dale, we don't have to ask Churchill. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He didn't beg and say, I'm sorry. He didn't kiss the ring. That's what happened. And
exactly. Now, how can that be possible?
How? Because us as the industry leaders are letting it happen. We have all these boards that do nothing. I love the Jockey Club. They are the Queen of England. You know, the Breeders' Cup and NTRA and Tober, they might as well be King Charles. Nothing gets figureheads. Nothing gets done. They're the ones that have let us down for 25 years. So, Dale, what's got to happen right now is the owners and the trainers have to step up. And if the owners and trainers don't, we'll just walk. Like, listen, I mean, Dale, do you really need this? You've been doing this for how many years? Is it really necessary? Dale, do you wish you were 25 years old and you were getting into this sport as a trainer right now?
I feel so bad for the kids coming up behind me. I saw the best of it, and you were maybe not owning at the time when the best was here. I saw the best of it. I couldn't stand it. I've never in my life imagined not going to Barn 4 at Churchill Downs until the last 2 years. And you got your neck is on the line. You could lose everything I've worked for 30 years training racehorses in a minute over somebody making a poor decision and nobody there to back you.
Yeah. All right, let me jump in here for a second, guys. Mike, let me interrupt you guys and just jump in here for a minute because, I mean, you both have done a wonderful job of outlining the issues, or at least some of the perceived issues that you guys are seeing from your perspectives. Mike is a top owner. Dale is a top trainer. What's the solution here? How do we get past all of these and get the ship righted, Mike, so that in 3 years you're not out of the game?
Well, I think it's very simple. I'm already rallying with some of the biggest owners in the game. I'm already rallying around some of the biggest trainers in the game. At the end of the day, as much as we all care about the horses, and it's always about horse safety, and we want to get the cheaters out of the game, the sport has done a job marketing and having PR. What I had to do with Forte as an owner, by myself, with Churchill hidden in a corner, and some vet that probably was like 33 years old making a decision, you know, obviously he was worried about my horse scratching, but I guess he let the other 12 that unfortunately broke down, those were okay to pass. So I think it was total BS. It was a total distraction to like, hey, how do we get our point of view? Oh, let's scratch the Derby favorite today. And you know what? At the end of the day, in the NFL, there's a commissioner, and the owners are run the ship. The commissioner reports to the owners. In the NBA, Adam Silver reports to the owners. Well, you know what? Churchill and NYRA and the Stronach Group better understand that without owners, there is no sport. So think about what you're going to do with that. That's number one. Trainers, if we can't get kids in this game to train and teach them and have apprentice where they can learn from a Dale Romans, a Steve Asmussen, a Todd Pletcher, who's going to be in here? Who's going to be the trainers 5 or 10 years from now? There'll be no trainers. So the horses will all be safe because guess what? There'll be no racing. So I think you know how we heard them? I've spoken to owners. Maybe we take a day at Churchill, we take a day at Saratoga. You know what we say? No one's entering horses today. Enjoy your 3-horse cards. Enjoy no racing. You make the announcement that you pissed us off enough that there's no racing on this Thursday. See how you feel about that. Hey, you know what? The breeders want to just sit back and just sell a horse to us. You know what? I'm not going to go to the Keeneland sale. I'm not going to spend $30, $40 million. And by the way, it's not only the amount I spend or owners like me spend, it's also about me being the underbidder and taking a horse from 200 to 400 and me stopping at 390 and someone bidding at 400. So people just see what I bought. They haven't seen the $10 to $20 million of bidding that I went against somebody. Take me out of that. Look at that handle. And if you do that with the 10 top buyers, these Uncle Mo's and these Curlins and these Mishras are going to sell for $125,000. Let's see how they won't even pay for their stud fee. So now, and guys, listen, this is passion. You know, people are going to say, oh, he's so angry, he's so frustrated. No, I know exactly what I'm saying. I know exactly what I'm doing. But there comes a time where you sit in a room and you hold hands and you say, hey, guys, let's go. That time was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago. Now you got to come in the room and you got to see that table and you just got to tip it over. And whoever runs out, great. And whoever wants to sit around that table, those are the people here, because those are the people that care about the sport and don't just care about their individual selfishness. And this shit's going to change. Or I'm just not going to be here, which I'm fine. To me, it's a win-win. I mean, I pay to be in this game. I don't get paid. I pay to be in this game. I'll go buy a boat. I'll go buy a football team. I'll go buy a basketball team. I'll go do something else. Dale's been tremendously successful. He'll spend more time with family. You know, I'm sure you're going to miss those 3:30 in the morning, you know, wake-up calls every single day, 7 days a week for the last 40 years. I'm sure that's going to be a big part of your missing. You're going to miss that very, very, very much, right?
Well, to be honest, I would, and I hate to see that I would ever leave, but it could happen. Now, let me ask you this too. I agree with you. We need one central, nationwide board with a commissioner, but I also think equally as important is something like the players' union, to where if a guy does have a problem and he's innocent, he doesn't spend his life savings proving that he's innocent. That's the other thing that makes Major League Sports work, in my opinion, is the players' union. We don't have that in our game. We don't have a group of horsemen that rally around a guy that has an overage that's going to cost him his career. Overages aren't cheating. Go after the true cheaters. You'll never catch one in a test barn after a race, because all you're going to catch in there is overages of permissible medications that someone got a little too close to, or a horse didn't metabolate as quick as another horse. Those two groups could work together and move this game very far forward.
Okay,
Dale,
Mike Repole. Mike, you're the commissioner of racing, right? Right now, you're the commissioner of racing. Give me your plan. Give me your outline for getting things on track and moving in the right way.
Well, this is what I'm going to set up the owner and trader committee, because you know what? I feel bad for Todd Pletcher. I feel bad for Dale Romans. I feel bad for Chad Brown. I feel bad for Bill Mott. I feel bad for Shug. I feel bad for, Cox. I feel bad for Baffert. I feel bad for these guys, because these guys are doing their best with 200, stables at 5 different locations. And what Dale said is perfect. Most of these tests, are just slight overages on drugs that are permissible. It's like if the speed limit is 55 and you go 60, you could get a ticket or you can get a warning. But here, because there's no marketing in the sport and there's no PR, oh, look at this guy, he's a cheater, he's a bum. You know what? What are we doing? We're supporting this? You know what? It now has to start owners and trainers. I need Churchill to call me now. I need Naira to call me now. I need Astronic to call me now, okay? Because the trainers, let me tell you right now, Todd Pletcher, you think he needs this? He'll be out of the game faster than me. I might go 3 years. Todd might go 2. I mean, he's got 3 kids, 3 wonderful kids, 2 of them out of college. One's got 1 or 2 years left. The guy's made a ton of money in this game. He had a friend who made him invest in a small little sports drink company called Body Armor. I lose money with Todd Pletcher. He makes money with Mike Repole. He doesn't need this. We had a really tough day yesterday, me and Todd. We played pickleball. I beat him, by the way. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. But I beat him, and you know what? He saw it today, and he's not training as well as he would have before the match. But me and Todd can go to Florida and play pickleball all day. We can do whatever we want. And when people like that leave, you got to say, what the hell is going on? And they don't care. They think the Todd Pletchers of the world and Dale Romans of the world, oh, they're replaceable. I don't see 22-year-old trainers out there. I don't see 30-year-old trainers out there. And if you think a guy like Mike Repole gets out of this game, and the next guy that is thinking about getting in this game say, this guy's pretty successful in business. This guy's loved the sport since he was 10 years old. He's had pretty good success. He's getting out. I've never put an owner into this game in 10 years. When they come to me about investing, I say, I'll pay the bills. I'll buy the horse. I'll pay for your seat. You come to the winner's circle with me, because I don't feel comfortable and I don't feel right.
So, all right. So, what's the plan, Mike? You're the commissioner. What are we doing? Walk me through.
We right now we are putting together a beautiful top owners, top trainers, and we're going to talk. And at the end of the day, like I said, if Churchill wants to ignore us, you know what? Their stock went down 11% yesterday. Their market cap was like $11 billion. It's down now to $8.9 billion. Let them keep ignoring us. And you know what? If you guys want to make money, you just might want to short Churchill stock for the next couple of times because it went down 11% on Monday, and it might go down even further. Okay? They need to start stepping up. We're letting them buy tracks left and right. We're watching tracks close left and right. You know, Belinda and Aiden have to decide what they want to do with Gulfstream, what they want to do with Laurel, what they want to do with Santa Anita. Naira's got to decide what they want to do. And you know what? Even the gaming commissions are screwing the sport up so bad. Inconsistency. I mean, from a scale to 1 to 10, the sport right now is a 20 as far as being a disastrous place to be in right now. Worst I've ever seen it.
I couldn't agree more. I tell you, the proudest day of my life, other than my 2 children being born, was the day my name showed up as trainer on the program. Now I feel like a criminal when you walk through there and you run into certain people. They just look down on you. And it's such a respectable job. You talk about Todd. Todd could have been the CEO of Body Armor. He's so smart and does things so well. He trains horses, and he doesn't make a lot of money doing it, mostly with investing with you. But how much more money could he have made out in the business world? He does it because he loves the horses and he loves the game. And people don't understand that. Everybody gets up early in the morning and goes to the barn simply for the love of the horse. And we've got it. And now we're looked at like we're criminals, like we abuse horses, like we're doing so many things wrong that we aren't. And we need some type of national, solid, strong representation on both sides. Get the cheaters out of the game. If you're using EPO, if you're using bronchodilators, if you're using some kind of steroid that can't be picked up, those are the guys that need to go. Not a guy that has an overage. Not a guy like Rick Dutcher that got a suspension of 90 days and nobody stood up to help him.
No. And Dale, you're right now, I compare the trainer to almost what people think of policemen now. These guys go out there, policemen risk their life every single day, and I watch people spit in their face and pour water on them and disrespect them. I mean, listen, it's embarrassing right now that, you know, trainers, because, but by the way, that's the lack of marketing in the sport. That's the lack of PR. That's the lack of everything. And listen, it has to stop because you know what? I've had it up to here. You've had it up to here. And you know what? Power in numbers. And what's going to happen is if these gaming commissions, HISA, and these tracks don't realize who this sport, other than the horses are first, owners and trainers are tied for second. Not tracks, okay, not HISA, horses, then owners and trainers. And it's time that we start to flex our muscle. I'll be the bad guy for everybody. I'll be the voice, okay? But let me tell you right now, I'm also going to be the voice that says, hey, we're not going to do this, and 25 owners are going to listen, and 25 trainers are going to do this, because I'm not doing this for Mike Repole. I'm doing this for every trainer. I'm doing this for every owner in the game, and even every gambler, okay? That's it. This sport needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be cleaned up now, and part of it is the incompetent people that are running this sport in a silo by themselves. I mean, when was the last time, you know, Churchill, Naira, and Belinda got in a room? When was the last time? You know, we want to talk about safety for horses. We run the Triple Crown. Kentucky Derby is on the first Saturday in May. 2 weeks later, we're running a horse back in 2 weeks. You wonder why only the Derby winners showed up. You wonder why. Can you? I mean, and by the way, everybody cares. Churchill cares about horse safety. Dale, would you say 20 horses in a race is safe? Who the hell thinks 20 horses in a race is safe? You know what, Churchill? Yeah, but you know what? Hey, it pays the doubles, the triples, the superfectors. It's big money. That race should be 14 horses, and everybody knows it. And you know when it's going to go to 14 horses? When someone in the lead falls off a horse and gets trampled by 18 other jockeys around 2 turns. You want to run 20 horses? Make it a straight flat on grass somewhere in France. But don't do it here in the United States.
Fired up, Mike Repole. Dale Romans with me, too. You're going to hear more from Dale coming up in just a little bit at 10:30 Eastern with I Ask, They Answer. Guys, we're just about out of time. I got to get to a commercial break. Mike, really appreciate the time here this morning. I know you got a lot going on. Appreciate it. Dale, appreciate you sitting in here, too. And Yeah, I mean, listen, a national marketing and PR firm for the sport would go a long way toward getting the 99% of positive storylines out to the general public as opposed to the 1% of things that happen in the game that always seem to make headlines and make life miserable for those of us who make a living in it. Mike, appreciate it. Dale, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike Repole, let's get together sometime and sit down and talk in private. I got a lot of ideas to talk about.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Dale. Let's do it. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Mike, good luck with Forte. Bye. All right, Mike Repole, Dale Romans here on HRN. Yeah, a fired-up Mike Repole, as you would expect. I expected Mike to come guns a-blazing here this morning. He did. Dale coming at it from the other side, the trainer side. Listen, the sport has issues. Every sport has issues right now. We got to work to resolve these issues. And I kept posing that question to Mike Repole. Mike, you're the commissioner. Give me the plan. What's the plan, Mike? Give me the plan. That's what's missing. We can talk about the issues all day long. And I think Mike brings up a good point. Getting everybody to the table, everybody to sit down together and put aside their interests in their own little fiefdoms, their own jurisdictions. What's good for me? What's good for the sport? That's the question that needs to be asked. All right, my thanks to Mike and Dale for taking time again. Dale going to join me coming up 10:30 Eastern for I Ask, They Answer. Back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Ellis Park is offering average daily purses of nearly $600,000 and a record $14 million in purses. Kentucky breds will compete for $70,000 in maiden special weight races and up to $80,000 in allowance races. And bettors will love the low 15% takeout pick 5s and the 20-cent jackpot pick 6, along with a daily $3 all-turf pick 3. For more information, visit EllisParkRacing.com. Ellis Park Pursers are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. First post, 12:45 p.m. Eastern.
I'm William Shatner. I've been around a long time, but I'm truly humbled when I see the real battles our brave, paralyzed veterans have faced defending our freedom.
I was on a routine patrol, and we were in the desert of Kuwait, and the vehicle flipped and landed on top of me, which left me paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay, folks, this is heroism. That's why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America. Go to PVA.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with a crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
One more hour to go here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. I'll tell you more about what's ahead momentarily. This is typically the time in the show where I would take a look at historical dates in racing history. I told you about Pat Day, who rode his first career winner 50 years ago today. You heard from the Hall of Famer looking back on that day at 9 o'clock Eastern. You can go listen to the podcast if you did miss it. July 29th, 1995, big day for jockey Russell Bays, who won his 5,000th race. He did it aboard Cyrus Says in the 6th race at Sonoma County Fair. That was July 29th, 1995. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. When I come back, we'll kick it all off with James Scully with the TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 races you'll want to keep an eye on later today and bet at TwinSpires.com. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History coming your way at 10:20. And I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin at 10:30 Eastern Time. If your local station's leaving us right now, all you have to do is listen to the third hour of the show on Sirius 216, XM 204, our affiliate in Louisville, Kentucky, and stream us worldwide at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum. Straight ahead, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Here comes Awesome again on the outside, who charges to the lead, and Awesome again in front. A first success second. Whitman, Barron takes to the outside. Awesome again wins by 3.
And Jockey's Warrior remains undefeated here at Saratoga, and he wins an unprecedented Grade 1 stakes at the Spa for the 3rd straight season. Jockey's Warrior, a true thoroughbred champion.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Down the center of the track, here comes Street Boss. And Street Boss let loose. Spot the Diplomat gets the lead, though. Spot the Diplomat in front. Street Boss on the outside. Street Boss is too strong. And Street Boss in a scintillating performance.
They're a furlong from the finish. It's Nest in full flight. Clairiere still with 2.5 to make up. $5 million in earnings between these two daughters of Curlin. But it belongs to Nest, who comes back in style and finishes full of run to score in the Chuvy by 2.5 lengths.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back, hour 3 of the Equine Forum. Mike Penna with you on this Saturday morning. If you missed any portion of the program so far, you know what to do. Head back to the website, horseracingradio.net, to check out the podcast and listen on every podcast platform, however you access your podcast. My conversation going down the road to the Breeders' Cup with George Papaprodromou in hour number 1. Ted Nicholson looking ahead to the tremendous meet coming up at Kentucky Downs starting August 31st. Hall of Famer Pat Day was with me to look back on the anniversary of his first career win and talk about some of the other top moments in his career. And Mike Repole and Dale Romans just a short time ago as well. Dale going to be back with me coming up at 10:30 Eastern. He'll be joined by Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. And, by the way, drawing the winner of the contest. The lucky listener will get an opportunity to take on Dale and Tim in the Showdown 2, which begins next Saturday, runs through the Breeders' Cup, and looking forward to finding out who is going to be the lucky participant there to try to take down the Big 2. James Scully going to join me momentarily to kick off the third hour with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and as I mentioned, Dale and Tim here at 10:30. Poll question, which of today's Grade 1 sprint races most likely to produce the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint, if indeed the winner comes from one of those two races, the Bing Crosby or the AG Vanderbilt? You can continue voting at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Well, James Scully's been busy handicapping. He has 3 races in this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. James, what's going on, brother?
Not much, Mike. Pleasure to be with you. We've got some stakes races, as always, from Del Mar and Saratoga, and always excited for these big weekend cards.
Yeah, and you have started with a couple of races at Saratoga. Then we'll wrap it up with the Bing Crosby at Del Mar. The 6th race at Saratoga is your first of the 3 races. Then we'll go to the 9th and then the Bing Crosby. So let's start with that 6th race at the Spa. It is a state-bred maiden special weight race, 1.16 on the turf, post time 3:18 Eastern. Why'd you choose this one?
Yeah, I chose a number. Well, first off, this is a race where, it's state-bred New York fillies, and I see a real chance for number 11 Autumn at any kind of price near 8-1 to really offer some value in this event. This is a filly, a 4-year-old filly by Constitution, who's Constitution 15% turf sire. I think he's underappreciated on as a grass sire. And this filly debuted in April on a Saturday program at Aqueduct and clipped heels and fell. And, obviously a huge concern, but she came right back to the work tab, but emerged no worse for the wear whatsoever. And Suge ran her back approximately, 6.5 weeks after that incident, Suge McGahee did. And she ran on this May 27th maiden special weight go with 7 furlongs at Belmont. Was up there chasing the pace that day and wound up weakening to be a decent 6, beating about 4 lengths. The winner of that race, Loon Cry, came right back to roll over entry-level allowance rivals as the favorite next time out for Christophe Comont. The third-place finisher came right back Snowy Evening to win her next start. I think that's a possible key race, Mike, and I think Autumn's going to really move forward off of it. Now, obviously, she's stretching out to from 2 races at 6 and then 7 to a 2-turn mile and a 16th distance, 2 turns at Saratoga. She's going to relish it. She's bred on both sides of the pedigree for longer distances, and I know she's drawn outside, which I hope only helps her price. But you can take a look at, if you have the Brisnet Ultimate Past Performances, which you can get through TwinSpires, at the E1 and E2 pace ratings, early pace numbers, Autumn got a 95 and 97. She has more than enough tactical speed to work out a trip with Tyler Gaffleone, real up close to the lead. I don't think she'll be on the lead, but she'll be up close. And I think she's going to take a step forward. Suge's off to a slow start, Hall of Famer Suge McGahee's off to a slow start this meet. But I think he gets his first winner with number 11 Autumn in race 6 today at Saratoga.
Great value at 8-1 on the morning line. And, James, I love the logic on this one because, as you know, I am a huge fan of the Brisnet Past Performances. It's all I handicap with now. And those numbers, the E1, E2 pace numbers, and then the late pace number is something I put a lot of stock in too. I think that they are accurate. I think they're very telling, and you have a situation here, as you outlined with Autumn, where those E1 and E2, the early and mid pace numbers, are really strong and could find herself in a great position in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say, you really take a look at this pace, Mike, and there's not much speed. I might be mistaken. She might just go right to the front and try to lead wire to wire.
Yeah.
It's a potential in there for sure. Either way, she's going to be in the first flight, barring a bad break. Autumn will be.
Yeah, Autumn 8-1 in that 6th race at Saratoga. Tyler Gaffleone, as James mentioned, is aboard for trainer Suge McGahee and should pose pretty solid value. You think we get 8-1 or higher?
I'm always optimistic for that, but I'm not the best gauge of the odds. I just am not, Mike. Sometimes I think they'll be way under bet or way over bet, and they're not, and vice versa. So, I wouldn't be surprised if she did get bet down a little bit because I do think there's some people that will recognize that Loon Cry race was a really strong race, and that could drive her price, but she won't be favored or one of the, I think, top choices.
Okay, you stick with the turf with the second leg of this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. And again, when you bet these races, you can bet them any way you like. Just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires.com. The 9th race is 1 mile on the inner turf, an allowance race, again, at Saratoga, 5:02 Eastern, the post. How'd you see this one?
Mike, I find a potential hidden gem, and sometimes I'm a little bit apprehensive to come out and maybe tout it if it's a big price. But that's a real opportunity to catch value in this game, is to see a horse like this number 2 in race 9. You got to have fun. That is 15-1 on the morning line, making her turf debut for Mike Maker, trainer switch to Mike Maker, off of 2 races at Mountaineer and Belterra Park. And let me just say, the fact that she ran well on the dirt was great. That first race at Belterra, she won by like 4.5 lengths in mid-May at a maiden special weight. And that last race at Mountaineer was an off the turf. She held on to narrowly win on the main track. But, I mean, she is explicitly bred for turf, top and bottom. And, No Nay Never is a turf sire. I mean, he's got like 4 turf champions. He's sired Breeders' Cup turf winners. He's not going to ever be known for siring dirt horses. This filly is out of a mare. What say you? She's an Irish-bred filly. You got to have fun. I mean, she was bred, her female family is a Coolmore female family. She is a sister. The Dam is a sister to Bolshoi Ballet, a Coolmore Aidan O'Brien horse, Grade 1 winner. He's running in today's King George and Queen Elizabeth at Ascot. And she's like the sister to a couple other like classic stakes winning types. This female family is just regally like second, third generations. You don't find any dirt stakes winners. It's all turf. And this, you got to have fun. It's inside speed. The 1, the 1A are both main track only. In fact, this is a field where the morning line favorite, Mike, is number 5, Expand the Map, a Chad Brown horse that is making her 6th She's raced at this level now 4 times. This will be her 4th start at the level. She's been favored and lost in like maybe 4 or 5 of her career starts. Just a total like a horse I love to play against at short odds. In fact, I find this field to be completely inauspicious and lacking speed. And I mean, Lee Saez has a chance to work out a great trip on the front end. You got to have fun. Initially RNA'd for $170,000 at the Keeneland sale. She wound up selling for $80,000 to Jerry Jim Gotchen, who turned her over to Eric Reed, and she was based at, out Russell Cave Road in Lexington, Kentucky. And she just recently sold this summer for $80,000. And Three Diamonds Farms has her now. She's got a half-mile fast work at Saratoga for Mike Maker. I like her chances on the front end in race 9. Number 2, you got to have fun with Lee Saez.
Yeah, normally, James, I would ask you for a exacta or maybe a couple of horses to throw into a trifecta, but I'm not going to do that here because 15-1 is plenty of value. Bet you got to have fun any way you like. If you agree with James and you think that she has a big chance there in race 9 at Saratoga, but a strong morning line, definitely worth the risk if you do think she has a chance. All right, let's move on to the final leg, which is at Del Mar. You've selected the feature race of the afternoon, the Grade 1 Bing Crosby. Win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. And, James, I started the show as I threw out the poll question, which of these races today, the Grade 1 Bing Crosby or AG Vanderbilt, more likely to produce the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint if the winner's coming from one of those 2 races. And I draw the parallel to the NFL and Elite Power running in the AG Vanderbilt. To me, right now, the leader in the division, the Patrick Mahomes of this division. You have a lot of horses in the Bing Crosby trying to get past Patrick Mahomes, trying to get to the top of the mountain, the Joe Burrows and the Jalen Hurts of the world. A lot of horses have been close in the Breeders' Cup Sprint in the Bing Crosby. They haven't gotten there yet. Maybe this is the year, but who wins the Bing Crosby today?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And with the Breeders' Cup being at Santa Anita this race, these races are going to have great fields at Del Mar. I like number 7, Anarchist, and I'll make a quick case for him. He finally broke his maiden last July. It was for Christopher Davis. It was at Ellis Park. And then he was transferred to O'Neill and he came back from a 6-month layoff in mid-January. His first 4 races were all runner-up finishes. Just had broken his maiden, but 2 of those runner-up finishes were grade 3 races, one on the turf, one the Kona Gold. He shipped him, O'Neill did, to the Jacques Cartier grade 3 race at Woodbine, and Anarchist really ran a big race that day to win, I thought comfortably by about a length, and then came back last time in the True North and took a big step forward. Quite simply, he was a tight turning for home, down inside horses, and he rallied really well up the rail. To at one point, I thought throw just at least a little bit of a brief scare into Elite Power. Now, granted, Elite Power has to prove it to me that he didn't leave his best races in Saudi Arabia, because he ran such a monstrous race at the start of the year. Maybe that race might be a little bit of mirage. But I'm going to give Anarchist the benefit of the doubt and look at him as a horse who's only progressing. And the one thing I like about an up-and-coming type like him is the fact that he runs in that race, Mike, on June 10th. He came right back 2 weeks later, drilled a fast workout. He has 5 workouts in the last 7 weeks, in the 7 weeks since his last race. I mean, he could not be any sharper, and I think he's moving forward. And I love his draw. Being in post 7 is a real edge for this early presser, this stalker, because he is going to sit off of a thunderous pace, I believe. This number 3, Toto Fino, can run 21 flat, I believe, and he is all in at 20-1. And he has more speed than I think people realize, and this pace is going to be blistering. And I like Anarchist to pick him up with Ramon Vasquez and earn his first Grade 1 victory.
Yeah, he's a bit of a newcomer in this division when you look at CZ Rocket and Dr. Shivel and some of those horses that are here, including the defending champion in the Bing Crosby American Theorem. Anarchist trying to get his name at the top of the list in terms of sprinters based in Southern California, which would be a great place to be if you're looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. And, the thing is that he's run well at Santa Anita. He trains at Santa Anita, and his best races are all in front of him. It looks like to me. He's a 4-year-old who, you're running 6 furlongs at 108 and 4 on the Tapeta. You're really motoring. And so I think Anarchist, I think those last 2 races are a little bit underappreciated. I think they're really, really big-time efforts, but from a classy up-and-coming sprinter. And like I said, post 7, I thought it's a good draw. I think the serious speed is to his inside.
Yeah, and just a length and 3/4 behind Elite Power in the True North back on June 10th. So he has some credentials there, does Anarchist. So just to recap James Scully's TwinSpires triple play for this week, he'll start in race 6 at Saratoga. James, you go in number 11, Autumn at 8-1. You go to the 9th race at Saratoga. Number 2, You Gotta Have Fun, 15-1. And in the 10th race at Del Mar, the Grade 1 Bing Crosby. Number 7, Anarchist at 4-1. So great value plays. And again, if you're going to bet those races, bet them any way you like. Just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires.com. James, before I let you go, give me the lowdown on what's happening at TwinSpires this weekend and what's happening at Briss.
Well, at TwinSpires, we have got some promotions. We've got a $5,000 daily coast-to-coast challenge going on this week at Del Mar and Saratoga. Go to TwinSpires, check that out. We have Colonial Down leaderboard competitions. We have a Let 8 Rod contest at Ellis. Those are always popular. Breeders' Cup Challenge bankroll builders where you can bonus cash is available to you. So lots of offers and promotions at TwinSpires. Make sure you opt in and check those out. And then at Brisnet, we've got all the handicapping report, a wide array of tip sheets for Del Mar, Saratoga. I'll throw in a mention of our workout reports. And if you mentioned it earlier as well, our Brisnet Ultimate Past Performance is the best past performance out there. Check out brisnet.com for all your handicapping needs.
And if you want to talk racing with James Scully, you can do it every week on the Brisnet.com call-in show here on the network, 6 to 7 Eastern, right here on these very same SiriusXM channels and streaming at horseracingradio.net. James, appreciate it. Good luck at the windows this weekend, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks. Good luck to everybody listening.
All right. The TwinSpires Triple Play. Bet those races at TwinSpires.com. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. That's a story, believe me, you won't want to miss it this week. You don't want to miss him any week, but this is a special one coming up here in just a few moments. And then Dale and Tim back with me for I Ask, They Answer at 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Colonial Downs summer racing season is here. Weekend racing returns every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with a first post of 1:30 p.m. Back this year is our popular 12% takeout Pick 5, which is now offered twice daily. We're also introducing the all-new Old Dominion 6, a $1 traditional Pick 6 with a 15% takeout. Join us for our biggest days of the season on August 12th for the Colonial Downs Festival of Racing, which features the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and September 9th as we wrap up the season with the Virginia Derby. Colonial Downs, rich history, bright future.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
Get ready for another week of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino in Altoona, Iowa, starting Friday, July 28th. The 4-day racing week will be highlighted by the Iowa Stallion Futurity for 2-year-olds at 5.5 furlongs on Saturday, July 29th. Post time on Friday and Saturday is 6 p.m. Central, then 4 p.m. Central on Sunday and Monday. Experience the thrill of live horse racing at Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino, Iowa's favorite place to play. Visit prairiemeadows.com for more information.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He won 2 legs of the Triple Crown 20 years ago, becoming known as the blue-collar horse which shocked the racing world. His name was Funny Side. Foaled at McMahon of Saratoga Thoroughbred Farm in Saratoga Springs, New York on April 20th, 2000, Funny Side was from the first crop by Distorted Humor, who would eventually sire more than 100 stakes winners. His dam was an Oklahoma-bred mare which won just twice in 26 starts. Bred by Windstar Farm and sold as a yearling for $22,000, Funny Side came to the attention late in 2001 of trainer Barkley Tagg. Every time Tagg saw the colt, he liked him even more, but the asking price kept increasing. It went from $40,000 to $75,000 in the span of 3 visits. Tagg had trained a horse for a partnership group which would become known as the Sackatoga Stable, a combination of the names Saratoga and Sackett's Harbor, New York. The group included 6 natives of Sackett's Harbor, a community of 1,400 near the Canadian border, who had been friends since high school. At $75,000, Funny Side proved to be a good purchase. With Tagg and assistant Robin Smolin overseeing the colt's training, and with the colt having now been gelded, Funny Side won 3 races in 3 starts at Belmont Park as a juvenile in 2002, earning $136,000. With that early success, the focus soon shifted to bigger events. Tag would point Funny Side to graded stakes races early in his 3-year-old season, a strategy that seemed ambitious to at least a few observers, given that Funny Side's 3 wins had all come against restricted state-bred company. But after a 5th-place result in the Grade 3 Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream Park and a 2nd-place effort in the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby, Tag decided to race Funny Side in the Grade 1 Wood Memorial in New York. The result was a runner-up finish by a half length to odds-on favorite Empire Maker. While Funny Side had yet to win as a 3-year-old, he seemed to be improving with each start, posting solid results against a higher and higher level of competition. Still, Tag was ambivalent about heading to Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby. He finally decided that Funny Side deserved a chance at the Run for the Roses, but going against conventional wisdom, he did not ship the gelding to Churchill until just 3 days prior to the race. Tag had trained horses for 32 years, but this would be his first starter in a Triple Crown race. Jockey Jose Santos had just turned 42 years of age and had been 0 for 6 in his prior attempts to win the Kentucky Derby. And Funny Side was 12-1 at post time, which came at 6:08 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, May 3rd, 2003. Tom Durkin with the call.
Funny Side has a narrow lead. Bobby Frankel's Derby deal one piece rolls to his inside. Empire Maker is giving it all. Funny Side trying to pull up the upset here. 12-1 coming down to the line. And the gutsy gelding Funny Side has won the 129th Kentucky Derby.
It was the first time a gelding had won the Derby in 74 years, and it was the first time ever for a New York bred to wear the roses. Funny Side had won the 129th running of the Kentucky Derby, and 2 weeks later, he would travel to Baltimore as the 9-5 post-time favorite for the Preakness. Dave Rodman gives us the call.
With a quarter to go at Pimlico, Funny Side has taken over and taken command in the Preakness. Funny Side down the stretch, 3 lengths clear. Now Scrimshaw trying to rally up outside, claiming second. Peace Rules Midway Road is next, followed by New York Hero, and there's a furlong to go, and it's Funny Side. The courageous Funny Side is pulling away in a dominant performance. 2 down, 1 to go. It's Funny Side destroying the field.
Becoming the first New York bred to win the Preakness in 107 years, Funny Side rolled home nearly 10 lengths in front of the field. But there would be no Triple Crown. Funny Side would finish 3rd at the Belmont Stakes behind Empire Maker. But he would continue to race for 4 more years, eventually retiring in the summer of 2007 with 11 wins and 38 career starts for earnings of $3.5 million. After spending the last 15 years as a resident at the Kentucky Horse Parks Hall of Champions, Funny Side died at the age of 23 earlier this month. Someone remarked upon his passing that he was a horse which had captured the imagination of the racing public. Songs had been written about him, and a brand of donuts, ice cream, hot sauce, chocolate mints, wine, and beer had all been named in his honor. One of the members of Sakatoga Stable once said, "Funny Side has done more for us than we could have possibly imagined. We just wanted to have some fun, and he gave us an experience which was priceless." Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's Voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Ellis Park is offering average daily purses of nearly $600,000 and a record $14 million in purses. Kentucky breds will compete for $70,000 in maiden special weight races and up to $80,000 in allowance races. And bettors will love the low 15% takeout pick 5s and the 20-cent jackpot pick 6, along with a daily $3 all-turf pick 3. For more information, visit EllisParkRacing.com. Ellis Park Pursers are powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. First post, 12:45 p.m. Eastern.
Virginia's horse racing and breeding industry is built on the talents, skills, labors, and passions of incredible people working in all parts of the Commonwealth. It supports 5,300 jobs that help create an economic impact of $542 million annually. Wager Virginia's showcase event this summer, the 9-week Colonial Downs Thoroughbred Race Meet, which runs through September 9th. It pays to breed or raise your horse in Virginia.
There are plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet with live racing Friday through Sunday and simulcast opportunities 7 days a week. Come out and enjoy the Summit of Speed, the Florida Sire Stakes Series, and a whole lot more. Watch the action from our Trackside Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms restaurant with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Loyalty makes a move up the inside. Out wider is Miss Speedy. Hard edge, the center got a bump as they come down the lane. Loyalty pushing up on the inside. Going through with Clitheroe and Miss Speedy down the outside. On the rails, Loyalty's burst to the front. Clitheroe in second. And it is Loyalty coming away. Talk to you later, late on the scene. But it's Loyalty who wins and wins handsomely. A very big win by Loyalty and the Hendry by 2.5 lengths.
That's Loyalty, the daughter of Darley Stallion Hard Spun, rolling to a 2.5 length win in the Grade 3 Hendry Stakes at Woodbine on Saturday. An impressive victory that makes her your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Hard Spun. Hard Spun has had 4 black type winners in a week. You have to go to $100,000 to find a sire with more this year. Learn about Hard Spun and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
But there's one furlong to go. 2 fills, fights on, but Mage has taken the lead. Angel of Empires are rallying third. Time is running out to catch Mage. Mage digs down deep, urged onto the wire to win the Derby.
It is Arcangelo with the lead. Arcangelo in front, trying to hold on for the final 50 yards. And it's Arcangelo to win the Test of the Champion. It is Arcangelo, and it is a monumental victory for trainer Jenna Antonucci. And what a month for jockey Javier Castellano. He won his first Derby with Mage. He wins his first Belmont Stakes with Arcangelo.
Well, there you have it. This year's Kentucky Derby winner and Belmont winner, both accompanied by Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano. If both horses meet in the Travers, which one should Javier choose to ride? Plus, is the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner more likely to come from today's Bing Crosby or A.G. Vanderbilt? And after her impressive comeback win last weekend, should Nest now be pointing for the Breeders' Cup Classic? All of those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, several great topics to dive into with Dale and Tim this morning. And then toward the end of the program, before our West Point of the Week, Dale and Tim will tell you which listener is going to square off with them in the Showdown 2, which begins next weekend. You'll get the opportunity to join us here on the program. Draft your stable, which will go head-to-head with Dale and Tim starting next weekend through Breeders' Cup Saturday. More on that in a minute. But, guys, I want to kick it off with topic number 1. Many listeners have been submitting topics over the past few weeks, and we welcome those. Mike at horseracingradio.net is how you can submit your topics for Dale and Tim. This one comes via email from Karen, who wants to know, assuming both horses meet in the Travers, which horse should jockey Javier Castellano choose to ride? Kentucky Derby winner Mage or Belmont winner Arcangelo? Tim, you want this one first?
Karen, that's a good question. And that's a question that only one guy can answer, and that's Javi. You look at do you get off the Kentucky Derby winner? Do you get off the Belmont winner? You're going to have to get off one of them if they both make it. I mean, he's ridden Arcangelo in his last 3 starts, breaking the Maiden, the Peter Pan, and the Belmont. When you go back to with Mage, he's ridden him 4 of his 6 starts. He was on him in the Fountain of Youth, then was off him in the Florida Derby. Luis Saez rode him, and Javi rode Cyclone Mischief for Dale, and they finished 3rd. Then after that, he was back on in the Derby because Saez opted to ride Tap at Trice. Then he was on Preakness and Haskell. Yeah. If I'm Javi, I don't know what I'm going to do. But if today, if someone put a gun to my head and said, which horse are you going to ride? I think I'd taken Arcangelo, the Belmont winner, even though it's awful hard to get off the Kentucky Derby winner. That's just what I would do. But then again, I'm not Javi.
P.J. Campos makes $400,000 a year to make those decisions. That's way above my pay grade. That's a tough call, boy. He's going to have a problem picking if he has to pick between those two. But the Kentucky Derby winner is still the Kentucky Derby winner. He ran well in the Haskell. I think I'd have to go with him.
Yeah, it's a very tough call. It's a great question.
Because he can't make a wrong decision, I don't think.
No, I mean, it's going to be tough. That's why those agents make big money. He'll figure it out. But I tell you, that's a luxury problem. Let's make sure everybody realizes that. We all know that's a luxury problem.
Timmy, he can make a wrong decision. If he chooses Mage and Arcangelo wins by 10, he made the wrong decision.
He did. But I think he's going to sleep well knowing that he made the decision in his mind that he was that he made the right one. I mean, I don't know how many. Ask every jockey that have had to choose between 2 horses how many times that they were right and how many times they were wrong. I mean, they don't. They can have their gut feeling in their mind who is the better horse, but on race day you just don't know. I'm sure he's going to be watching the way these horses work, and in the relationship he has with both barns, he and PJ. So it's a very tough decision. But he's going to be on a good horse.
One good thing about having to make that decision, if he does pick the wrong one, he'll still have 6 Travers trophies.
That's true.
Yeah, he's chosen right more than he's chosen wrong, I would say, in that race. He's the king of the castle when it comes to the Travers Stakes. And Karen, really appreciate that question. If you have a question you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, email it to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, and we'll work it into the show for you. So many of you are doing that, and they love answering your questions, so really do appreciate that, Karen. All right, moving on to topic number 2. There are 2 major Grade 1 sprint races set to be contested this afternoon. You have the AG Vanderbilt at Saratoga and the Bing Crosby at Del Mar. Now, the AG Vanderbilt features the defending sprint champion, Elite Power, who's on a 7-race win streak. The Bing Crosby has talented sprinters like CZ Rocket and Dr. Shivel, who have both run well in the Breeders' Cup in the past, just unable to get the victory. So, guys, which race would be more likely to give us the winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year if the winner comes from one of those two races? Dale, what do you think?
I'm going with Saratoga, the Vanderbilt. Like I said, the horse is a really good horse. He's on a big win streak. And if I had to pick, I'd go. One of the things that's hard to believe is Easy Rocket's still running. How old is he? 7, 8? He's still running at the highest level?
Yeah. Yeah, he's an older horse.
And he was claimed. He was
9.
claimed. Peter claimed
old.
him. How old?
9.
9 years old. It's unbelievable. And Peter claimed him. He's done a good job with him. But he's faltered when he gets to the Breeders' Cup. So I'm going with the Vanderbilt.
Like the way you went out on a limb there, Dale, picking the horse that won it last year. But I got to agree with you. I mean, Elite Power has won 7 in a row. After Cody's Wish, he's the second-ranked horse in the country in the NTRA poll. I mean, he just does his thing and wins. You know, he's going to face a little bit. He's going to face a challenge from Steve Asmussen's Gunite, but you go back to in the Bing Crosby, they don't have the star power that the Vanderbilt has with Elite Power. I mean, CZ Rocket, who's going to make his 41st start. I mean, he was second twice in the sprint. Last year, he was second to Elite Power, 31-1. If he were to win the Bing Crosby, I don't think he's going to all of a sudden be the horse that everyone thinks is going to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But if Elite Power doesn't win the Vanderbilt, I still think people are going to think he's going to be the horse that's going to win. And there's another horse in the Bing Crosby named the Chosen Ron. He's won 7 races in a row, but all against Calbreds. He's not going to get the attention that Elite Power is. So I agree with Dale on this, that the probable winner of the Breeders' Cup Sprint comes out of Saratoga in Elite Power, win or lose.
How much stock do you guys put in the home field advantage factor with the Breeders' Cup being held in Southern California this year?
Not a whole lot. I don't think it makes a big difference. I mean, I'm sure they'll get out there early and get over the racetrack a few times, and I don't think that'll make a big difference. I think the best horse is going to win Breeders' Cups no matter where they are. And Elite Power is an awfully talented horse. And Tammy, it's not my fault that Mike pitches a softball here.
Well, you kind of hit it up the middle there, Dale.
Let me see if I can do better with the next couple of topics, because it is that time of the show when we say hello to our good friend, the Hall of Famer Nick Zito, and find out if the next couple of statements are right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, guys, let's see if this one is considered a softball or not. Champion Nest didn't disappoint in her long-awaited 4-year-old debut last Sunday when she cruised to that 2 1/4 length win over Clairiere in the Grade 2 Chuvy. If I were to say that her connections should now be pointing to the Breeders' Cup Classic over the Distaff, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
Nah, I'll say wrong. Stick to the Distaff. She's a talented filly. Go out a winner. I mean, it's not going to do that much more for her if she was to up and beat the boys, but stick to the fillies and just dominate the class, be champion again, and go have babies. Or maybe come back. Mike's the kind of guy that could bring her back for another year.
There is some speculation, Timmy. We might see her as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Dale on this. I mean, I think that they have the right plan of attack for Nest. Because remember, she missed 8 months in between the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year and when she ran in the Chuvy here at Saratoga. And the plan they have is to go the person Lenson, the Spinster, and then to the Distaff. That makes the most sense to me. I mean, I think deep down Mike Repole would love to try the boys at some point. I think I think he wants to bring her back next year at 5. And if that happens, I think she will try the boys. Because, you know, she was awfully impressive off that long layoff. I mean, it looked like she didn't miss a beat. And we all know how much she loves Saratoga after she won the Coaching Club American Oaks of the Alabama last year, dominating form. So I think the distaff is the right way to go for them this year, and that's the way I think they will go.
Well, let me lay this out for you. We've talked about this a few times now over the past couple of months. The Classic division doesn't appear to be the strongest Classic division we've ever seen. And if Nest would continue to dominate the distaff division in the prep races leading up to the Breeders' Cup over the next few months, why not? Why not take your shot if you catch a perceived weaker group of older males?
Well, if the race fell apart, then it's a different story. But the older division isn't that tough, and we yet can determine on how good the 3-year-old division is. I know they're beating each other right now, but a horse like Fort is an awfully talented horse. You start clumping the 3-year-olds in with the older division, by the time we get to late October, early November, it gets a lot tougher.
And, you know, what happens next week if Cody's Wish runs really well in the Whitney? Do they start preparing for a Breeders' Cup Classic campaign? That would be an awesome thing for the sport to have Cody's Wish run against Nest in the Classic. I don't think it'll happen, but I just think that they're going to be very content to stay within their own sex right now.
All right. Dale, I'm going to come to you first with this next one because it involves Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandella, who remained undefeated in the Haskell after Pin Oak Stud's Go Rocket Ride took home the top prize last Saturday. Mandella has taken his talented colt back to his home base in Southern California rather than sending him to Saratoga for the Travers. Is that the right or wrong decision?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
What do you think?
You would never, ever catch me second-guessing Richard Mandella, one of the greatest minds and the calculator of the game that has ever come around. And if he thinks he's more comfortable going back home and prepping for something, you know, he's kind of known as a conservative trainer. But he gets the best out of them when they run, and I would never second-guess him. So I'm going to say he was right in doing so.
Have to agree with him. The horse was making just his fourth start in the Haskell, and Mr. Mandella knows his horse. He knows, and he's taking him back to California now. Doesn't want to ship him back east. You know, that's a lot for a young horse. So he's going to be very content to stay in California, and the Pacific Classic, awesome again. Goodwood going against older horses, but he gets to stay home then, and he wants to see this horse mature. And like Dale said, no one is going to second guess him, Mr. Mandella, because he's forgotten more about horse racing than anyone around, most anyone around, is ever going to know.
Yep, Richard Mandella, one of the best to ever do it, and you guys both agreeing with his decision. We'll say hello to Nick Zito again next week for Right or Wrong. One more topic to get to before we draw the winner to compete in the Showdown 2. We'll announce that momentarily. And this one involves Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day, who joined me earlier in the show to celebrate the anniversary of his first career win, which came on July 29th, 1973 at Prescott Downs in Arizona. This, of course, the exact day, the 50-year anniversary of that win. Pat would go on to record 8,803 victories and is now ranked fourth most all-time among riders with that number. Dale, I know you're good friends with Pat Day. What are some of your top Pat Day moments when you think back on his career?
Well, most of them are personal and the things that he taught me about life and horse racing. For some reason, he took a liking to me as a kid, and we've been very close ever since. And he's such a good person. But I'll just tell you one couple of quick stories. One of them, I told him to go to lead on a horse. And the horse is back fourth or fifth, mid-pack, comes on, gets beat a nose. I went down and said, Pat, why didn't you go to the lead? He said, I had to stay with my horse. I thought that's one of the greatest lines I ever heard from a jockey coming back. And some, you can talk about all the great moments and all the great rides to Wild again and everything he's done. And when you rode Pat Day, you could have the third best horse and you still had a good chance of winning. And he's the only jockey I've ever been around that I would say that about. But one day he won a race for me at Churchill, and on the way back he's talking to a bug boy. I wish I could remember who it was. He's talking to a bug boy, and he told the bug boy, "Kid, sit right there and wait for me." So we got our picture taken. He weighs out. He put his arm around the young kid, and he said, "You see that red and white pole way down there?" He said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Day." He said, "See how far that is?" "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, why were you riding your horse at that point?" And he not only was he great, he was great for the game, but he was great to have in the jocks room, and he taught people how to do things. And you talk about a guy that's turned his life around and helped more people turn there's no one in our game, and very few people ever born. He's a great man. He walks the walk, and I think he walks on water.
Timmy?
I remember Pat Day. I mean, I interviewed him tons of times, and the thing that I always remembered about him was his being such a gentleman, a classy guy. But if you asked him something stupid, he would not yell at you, but he would quietly admonish you for being wrong, and he would teach you a lesson and don't ask that question again because it was stupid, but he'd say it in the right way. And I remember him on Easy Goer. I mean, what a campaign he and Easy Goer had together with their battles with Sunday Silence. And then when they came up here in '89 and won the Whitney against the older horses, I think it was a 5-horse field or 6. And then 2 weeks later, he came back and he won the Travers. I mean, Pat Day was just a classy individual who is a classy individual. And, you know, I've learned a lot from him when just coming up into this business and talking with him. He taught things about riding, about races, about life, and just a really good guy.
Yeah, I told the story earlier. I was never a Pat Day fan because at the time that Pat Day was really rolling, I was kind of getting into racing, and just my experience with racing was betting on horses. And every time Pat would win, I would bet against him, and every time I would bet against him, he would win. And vice versa. And it was really one of those situations where I zigged and zagged with Pat Day. I could never catch him, so I never cared for him as a jockey. But, man, you talk about somebody I've gotten to know over the years that's a first-class individual, and he was fantastic earlier in the show. If people missed it, they can go back and listen to the podcast because it was really an enjoyable conversation with the man they called Patient Pat Day.
Mike,
all right,
you should
guys.
have been more patient with him.
I probably should have been. Yeah, I probably should have. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Timmy. All right, we've got to get to our West Point of the Week, but we have a few minutes left here to welcome the listener who is going to challenge you guys next week in the Showdown 2. They'll join us here on this program. We'll do a fantasy draft. You'll each pick a team, and that contest will run through Breeders' Cup Saturday. So you are currently both in separate locations now, but earlier you got together to do the drawing. You met in the Saratoga paddock, which was so appropriate. You drew out the winner, and here is the winner of the Showdown 2.
Here we are for the second Horse Racing Radio Network Fantasy Stable contest, and we are going to have Dale Romans pick the name of an unfortunate soul who will what?
We'll finish third in our second draft. I was second last time, but I was cheated. I know I won, and you all know I won.
Wait. I won it, though. I won it. The numbers do not lie.
All right, well,
whoever's in this here is going to finish last.
Finish third. We know that much. Hold it up high so I can't see. And our first third-place finisher of our draft is
Michael Riley.
Congratulations, Michael, on getting humiliated for the first time on HRRN.
And good luck to you. You'll need it.
All right, well, first of all, congratulations to Michael. You heard the truck there in the background, but we heard you guys well enough. It is Michael Riley who is the winner of the Showdown. He is going to compete against you. Well, he's not the winner of the Showdown yet, but he's the winner of the contest, and he will get a chance to compete against you. Dale, wait a minute. There's that saying.
I know.
You know you've made it when right? You know you made it when, then you know you haven't made it when. Dale Romans butchers the name of your network.
It's too many initials. You should only have 3 initials.
I hope you do better in the showdown than you did with the name of the network.
We started to do a retake. I said, we can't rob this kid. He won, so we let it go. I thought you'd cut that out.
Oh, no. I had to leave that in there. And by the way, Michael, we asked people to submit entries via email. He did. And his reason for wanting to take you guys on was because it says on Twitter that he is the world's foremost expert on horse racing. And he went on to say, if it's on Twitter, it must be true. So there you have it. So he's ready to roll against you guys.
So Michael O'Reilly, he's a very humble fellow, isn't he?
He did go on to be very complimentary of the tremendous job that you guys do on the show, and we do every single week. He listens every single week.
It's not going to help him.
No compliments will help.
I hope he does well.
I don't.
Yep.
I won't mind buying him dinner one day. I talked to Jeff Ruby a couple of days ago. I told him to get a table ready just in case.
It's not going to happen.
Well, the showdown
he's
too.
He's not going to win, and Dale's not going to win.
We're going to get to meet Michael next week on the program. He'll join us. You guys will each draft your stable, 5 horses, an alternate horse. Once that horse is off the board, nobody else can pick him, just like a fantasy football or baseball draft. And all the rules are on our website at horseracingradio.net, and it should be a lot of fun. Really excited to welcome Michael to the show next week and to see if he can take down Dale and Tim. The Showdown 2 starts next Saturday. Romans Revenge is what we're going to call it because he's trying to get revenge on Timmy, and now he's going to take his anger out on Michael as well. All right, guys, it is time for the West Point of the Week. We wrap up the show like this every week, and our thanks to West Point for sponsoring this segment. You can experience the lifestyle of thoroughbred racehorse ownership with the gold standard in racing partnerships for over 30 years. It is West Point Thoroughbreds. You text HORSE to 66866, and you'll learn about ownership from the best, the gold standard West Point Thoroughbreds. Message and data rates may apply. Tim, kick it off. What's your West Point of the Week?
I want to give a shout out to jockey Jose Ortiz, who a week ago Friday went down in a race and bruised his ribs pretty bad, but his toughness came through when a couple days later he was working a horse for trainer Jonathan Thomas, and he came back to the races on Wednesday and won 3 times. This guy, like all of those guys, are amazing athletes, and I just marvel at the job they do every day.
Yeah, my point's a little serious this week, and I usually don't like to be serious. But a very good friend of mine, and he's worked for me last 3 winters in Florida. He stays in Florida year-round. Chano Bahina, the nephew of my longtime assistant, Baltimore Bahina, went down on a horse and severed his spinal cord this week at Gulfstream Park. He had surgery a few days ago. It was successful surgery. There's a chance he'll be able to walk again, even though it's slim. So we need everybody out there to send their prayers to Chano Bahina, not a better guy working on the backside. And they set up a GoFundMe page, and I think you can find it through my website. If anybody gets a chance, they could send a little something. He's going to need a lot of help. But prayer's most important.
Amen to that. We will retweet that link to the GoFundMe page on our HRN pages, too. We'll put it out there for you so you can go help. Dale, sorry to hear that, and it just reminds us all of the dangers facing these young men and women when they get a leg up every single time. And we wish him all the best. He's certainly in our prayers.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Listen, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the races. We'll do it all over again next week, and the Showdown 2 kicking off next Saturday.
Sounds good.
All right, if you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, email it to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net. We'll get it worked in. I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, back next week. And I'm back with more right after this.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show on Sirius 216, XM 204, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Really looking forward to the Showdown 2 next week and welcoming Mike O'Reilly to the program. We'll see how he does in his quest to take down Dale and Tim as the self-proclaimed world's foremost expert on horse racing. I love it. If you missed any portion of the show, head back to the website and check out the podcast. You can do it on every podcast platform as well. However you listen to your podcast, just type in Horse Racing Radio Network. My thanks to all of you who took time to weigh in this week's poll question, and my thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible. It has been a very busy morning. The Road to the Breeders' Cup kicked things off at 8:15. Got a chance to visit with trainer George Papaprodromou, looking ahead to this weekend's big stakes races at Del Mar. Ted Nicholson was with me from Kentucky Downs in the first hour of the program as well. My thanks to Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day, who 50 years ago today recorded his first career victory in that Hall of Fame career. And then Mike Repole and Dale Romans were with me at 9:30 to discuss some of the industry issues that are facing the sport right now. At 10 o'clock, you had the TwinSpires Triple Play with our good friend James Scully. Kurt Becker, my thanks to him for the Stroll Through Racing History, and Dale and Tim in the previous segment. Again, if you missed any portion of the show, head to the website. Check out the podcast at your leisure and the podcast of all of our programs. You can do that at horseracingradio.net. For my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, for Chauncey, handling all of our social media, my thanks to them. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks to all of you for listening here this morning. Training camps are open. Steelers begin their march to the Super Bowl. Go Steelers.